How about now? Ah, so it must have reset the settings. Outstanding. All right. Hello, Anna. Hello, everybody. This is your president speaking. We already got our technical difficulty out of the way, so the rest of the stream should be a cinch. Ugh, that's so frustrating. There's always something going on. Anywho, there is a lot of regular politics to cover, so U.S.-based politics. Tomorrow, we're going to cover some of what this administration is doing, but how it's affecting the world, because we have to talk about Colombia and we have to talk about Venezuela tomorrow, because the Trump administration is murdering fishermen off of the South American coast, no matter where it is at this point. So, although that is a Taco Tuesday-esque discussion, because it's happening in another country, a different part of the world, we will be talking about that tomorrow. But because we are streamers and I am a nerd, I did also want to do like a slight lighthearted PSA type deal, if you will. I like anime. I'm sure you like anime. And I generally like anime that has a good story to it. And, you know, sometimes you want the good action, beat 'em up type anime. Sometimes you just want the silly goofiness. And other times you want the emotional damage. So let me tell you about To Your Eternity. If you think that anime is going to be a whimsical slice of life anime, do not watch it. Do not watch To Your Eternity unless you are ready to have your heart ripped out of your chest and crushed before your very eyes while it's still beating every episode. So, hello Apolitical. So, that's my PSA. It's a fantastic anime, absolutely fantastic. But if you think it's just gonna be this whimsical slice of life and a pseudo fantasy, you need to have tissues and more tissues, and like probably a dark, quiet room and a nice corner to curl up in and be like, ah. So, what is my favorite anime? I think I'd have to go with Attack on Titan. Sword Art Online has a very, very strong place in my heart as well, though. I grew up watching, Yu Yu Hakusho, Dragon Ball Z, original 90s, 2000s Sailor Moon. So, like, those are definitely good anime, or anime that I've watched and feel strongly about. But I got to admit, Attack on Titan, I think it just checked off so many boxes. And honestly, To Your Eternity is doing a really damn good job as well. It has combat, it has like a fantasy isekai type deal to it, and then it has great story as well as great emotions. Like, as far as an overall complete anime goes, To Your Eternity is right there, but so is Attack on Titan. There's quite a few episodes in Attack on Titan where you're just like, ugh. So, all of which is to say, gotta fix my hair apparently because I had that huge cowlick a second ago. I'm more of an isekai fan, like fantasy type stuff. I know Attack on Titan is not an isekai, and neither is Sword Art Online, but I do enjoy the idea of getting into a fantasy world, but with modern knowledge. That to me just is, that would be the ultimate, right? Like, it would be one thing if you just grew up being able to do fire and lightning, or, sword arts, or become a barbarian, or whatever else. Like, the fantasy animes, those are still good, right? There's still nothing wrong with them. But the idea that you could take what your present day modern society knowledge and apply it to the past, or into an isekai setting where they're more than likely at the Middle Ages level of development, but it's okay because they have magic and stuff. It just, to me, imagine if you could apply the basics of science that you're familiar with in modern times to include mathematics, the atomic structure, chemicals, material sciences, right? Plus technology, like communication devices. Usually in fantasy, it's like a rock, right? That just happens to be able to do translocation. But imagine if you could recreate a cell phone, or the functionality of a cell phone. It would be like that rock, but with more ability to it, right? Or, having a microphone, something to amplify your voice or record your voice. I think having that knowledge of what those things are and being able to take it into a magical fantasy land would be just the bee's knees. So if I'm ever dead and I'm hit by a truck, cross your fingers that I'm in a fantasy world. That one time I got hit by a truck and got reincarnated as the seventh son of a... All right. Getting on with the stream. Although this one should probably be tomorrow, but we'll just play it real quick since it's at the top. Or we won't, because reasons. There we go.
Get to Washington now for the latest on that subject. President Trump, by the way, now saying we are in a trade war with Beijing. How does that differ from previous language? Well, let's ask Eamon Javers, who joins us now.
If we're in a trade war with China, we're already losing because... Oh. That was fast. That was probably one of the fastest follows we've gotten in a stream before. Thank you for the follow, Nathan. I read today about Vance shooting howitzers over the interstate. This has to be the most incompetent administration of all time. Yeah, and negligent, because why on earth would you be shooting howitzers over a interstate regardless? And it's not like we don't have artillery testing sites in the United States of America. In the desert. You wouldn't need to shoot it over the interstate because we have artillery ranges. We have them overseas. We have them in the United States. It just doesn't make sense. Do you think our AI overlords will let us fight China? Well, isn't that the thing? China and Japan are trying to sue OpenAI and the various other AI corporations because of the sheer amount of theft and IP theft that these AIs are engaging in. I mean, Japan specifically, China created their own for like a fraction of the price. They created a Chinese version of ChatGPT for $5 million, and it was better than ChatGPT. So, I mean, as far as all that goes, getting into a trade war with China is a losing prospect because we neither have the industry, the ability to develop rapidly, or the raw resources, like the natural resources, to compete with China. Because in terms of the industrialization part, we literally offshored it. We literally sent it to China. So we would have to, take it back and then rebuild it. Like, Dayton, Ohio used to have 300,000 people living there because they had auto manufacturing and I don't remember what other, I think it was primarily auto manufacturing, but let's just say it was a couple of other textiles and products, right? Say there were 3 major manufacturers in Dayton, Ohio. Well, all of those buildings are still in Dayton, Ohio. They don't have the machines, and those buildings aren't in the greatest of condition. So even if we would restore the buildings, which would probably take weeks, we would then have to get the machines, which aren't being made in America to begin with. They're from Japan or Germany or even China. So then it would take another few weeks or months to get those put into the systems. And then you'd have to train people, hire people, then train those people, and then make sure that the standards and processes are good. And then you'd have to rebuild the entire, supply chain to actually utilize those manufacturing processes in the first place, which would require the largest amount of cooperation between industries in America since post-World War II, which, at the rate things are going, ain't ever gonna happen because we are in the end stages of capitalism, the part where it's turned into fascism, right? And at that point, it's just every man for themselves. We need to take as much as we can for ourselves. So there's just between the billionaires trying to scrape bleed the rock with all the blood or something like that. We're screwed. If Newsom didn't close the interstate, people probably would have been killed, especially motorcyclists. Yeah. And that's the thing, too. Like, California, Newsom, right? He's not even the leader that we need, want, or deserve. He's the most self-serving Democrat with the cheesy car salesman hairstyle and the sleazy businessman attitude. Everything that you think of a sleazy politician is Newsom. But I'll be damned if he isn't at least fighting back. he's pushing back. He's doing some things that are right. For instance, shutting down the interstate, making insulin significantly more affordable, even though California universal health care is sitting on his desk and he refuses to support it because of all of his donors from Big Pharma and the health insurance industries, right? So Newsom is a compromised individual, a very compromised candidate, right? But in these small areas, he is in fact trying to showcase some ounce of leadership. So it 6 of one, half dozen of another. Yeah. So let's hear a little bit on this, but I think this is probably more appropriate for tomorrow.
Good morning, Eamon.
Yeah, good morning to you, David. This comment by the president yesterday at a press availability at the White House getting a lot of attention because the president did say that we're in a trade war with China. And I've gone back and done a search for the course of this year. I don't think he has said this as directly as he said it yesterday before in the second term. He actually referred to a trade war with China in the first term. I can't find any specific reference to the president acknowledging that we're in a trade war here in the second term. But I want to play you this question and answer that he got because the nuance here, I think, is important. Here's how that Q&A exchange went down yesterday.
Oh, boy, we get to listen to this shitbag.
Mr. President, you're meeting with President Xi in a few weeks.
Yeah.
If you can't come to an agreement or a deal at that meeting, are we in for a sustained trade war with China?
Well, you're in one now.
So you heard the president there saying, well, we're in a trade war now, but it was really in a response to a question of how long are the current tensions going to go on. I think what's happening there is sort of the president, acknowledging the obvious, of course, which is...
Okay, I'm going to stop you right there. Quit trying to give this piece of garbage more credit than he fucking deserves. Secondly, he answered the question. We're already in one. In his opinion, we're already in one. And based on the fact that we have tariffed every single country to include our allies, except for Israel and Russia, should kind of tell you, like, where this moron's head is at, economically speaking. So, we've been in a trade war because of the tariffs. We've been losing the trade war because of the tariffs. And we are not going to be able to recover from these economic failures in anything resembling a quick amount of time. Because, and I'm not trying to be over the top when I say this, if Trump died tomorrow and J.D. Vance became president and J.D. Vance went on his hands and knees on national television and begged every country to forgive the United States of America for the foolishness that is Trump, the economy, the global economy, that entire supply chain has already shifted away from the United States of America. Soybeans were bought zero by China. China is not going to turn around and be like, oh, well, we already fixed this from Argentina, but now that it's somebody else, we'll go back to America for soybeans. That's done. That is an end. That is no longer a thing, right? And it's true with many other types of trade that we've engaged in. We have lost the respect and the credibility with these trading partners, whether we're trading oil, steel, munitions even for that matter, whether it's industrial equipment or automobiles, whether it's whiskey, whether it's food products or drink products, whether it's textiles, whether it's anything that we make in this country, and we do make a lot of things in this country. Canada has already closed its shelves to us. Mexico has closed a lot of its trade to us. Europe has not necessarily closed as much as those two countries, but they have found other resources, right? Other outlets to get that trade. And China has already found a supplier for the soybeans that they wanted, or the rice, or the whatever else. So the thing about global trade is, just because our country makes steel and another country makes steel doesn't mean that those countries wouldn't trade steel with each other, right? Or that this country that also makes steel wouldn't buy steel from America, so long as the steel made from this country is being used internally or also being exported to another country, right? Trade is based on net benefit between the countries. Maybe the steel we make is 316 stainless and we can do it cheaper, faster, better, stronger, right? Their 316 stainless steel isn't as great, but they can make cold rolled steel rolls significantly faster, better, and cheaper than we can. So instead, we trade 316 stainless for cold rolled steel, right? And that's the essence of trade. We're still essentially trading the same thing, but we can do something slightly better than they can, and they then focus on doing their own thing. China, however, has been the global epicenter for manufacturing of literally everything that is here. All of this stuff is made in China, right? And that's, at the end of the day, that is the reality. So much stuff is made in China that we cannot compete on a cheap manufacturing or broad manufacturing landscape anymore because we got rid of it. We don't have Pennsylvania steel anymore, right? We don't have toy manufacturing in America anymore. We barely can make playing cards from Hasbro, right? Or the poker, whatever the company is, right? The fact of the matter is this trade war is one that we lost the second we tried burning bridges and trying to strong-arm other countries into doing what America wants. That's just not how that works. You have 192 countries on planet Earth and 192 different ways of doing business with 191 different trading partners. And America is only one of them. So, anyway. Ari, I have a question for you. If you say Zionists are bad, and someone tells you, well, the vast majority of Jews are Zionists, so you're an anti-Semite, what do I say? Fantastic question, because that is obviously coming up in American politics, unironically. I would argue the facts, for one. An overwhelming majority of Jews are not Zionists, and an overwhelming number of Jews are protesting against Zionism and Israeli genocide against Palestinians. So I would further argue that if we're going to conflate Judaism with Zionism, and we're going to sit here and say that just because a lot of Jews associate with Zionism, that makes it anti-Semitic, well, there's apparently a lot of Christians that think Nazism, slavery, and just outright bigotry and discrimination are A-okay too. So does that make all Christians bigoted, racist Nazis? And see, nobody likes that counter argument. It's like, well, that's different. Not all Christians are like that. Correct, just like not all Jews. Well, but it's a vast majority. Well, a vast majority of Christians aren't exactly following the teachings of Christ either. Well, you can't say that. Okay, well, Hitler himself declared himself a Christian and declared the Nazi movement a Christian movement. So, I don't know what you want from me. So, did Christians universally condemn Nazism, or is it literally making headways amongst right-wing extremists in America, like Alex Jones growing the Hitler stash, amongst Elon Musk doing the salute, right? Amongst the young Republicans who are saying Hitler was probably not a bad guy and we should start gassing people again? Or the fact that the AfD, right, the Alternative for Deutschland, is literally repeating Hitler's statements in German. So, to argue, for anyone that would argue that even if a majority of Jewish people were Zionists, that makes me anti-Semitic is false, because there are enough Jewish people fighting against Zionism to prove that Zionism has nothing to do with their religion that I could not be considered anti-Semitic. I don't know about America, but the stats this person showed me was worldwide stats. The sources ranged from 82 to 94%. Yeah, I would share the source because, again, especially when you're trying to paint a box from the Jewish population, which is a very sensitive thing to do for the obvious reasons. Mind you, globally, there's only about 20 million Jews alive. Like, practicing Jewish people with even a Jewish heritage, right? The entire faith consists of about 20 million people at this point. Christianity around 2 billion, Islam about 2 billion, and then everything else. So the other half of the world is whatever the other half of the world is. But half of the world, really a quarter of the world, is Christian, another quarter of the world is Islamic, Muslim, right? And then the other half is whatever, with like a small percentage of that being Judaism. So I would be very doubtful about any stat that says that Jewish people are largely Zionist, considering we can see a whole bunch of stats saying that Trump is great and that Americans support him, right? Like, you can find those stats if you look for them. Let's see, apolitical. During the time in Nazi Germany, we didn't blame Germans for being German, even though most Nazis were German. Our criticism was directed at Nazism, the ideology, and the actions associated with it, not the people as a whole. You can see the evidence of this and how we view Germans today. We don't hate Germans because they are no longer Nazis. We understand that Nazism was a political movement, not an inherent trait of an entire people. I talk like I lived during Nazi Germany, but I hope you get the point. Yeah, no, so that's the thing. But Germans live with German guilt because of what happened during Nazi Germany. And Germans will be the first to tell you, it's like what we did, what our forefathers did was reprehensible. And we live our lives to ensure that it'll never happen again. Except now, they literally have the AfD marching and organizing in the streets. There have been Nazi marches in Germany with significant amounts of arrests, don't get me wrong. But that kind of fascist resurgence has been occurring in Germany. I would say that's probably true. Most Americans at this point seem to be pro-Trump. Well, it isn't true because statistically, we just had a No Kings protest for one. And all of the polling data suggests that Trump is losing support amongst all demographics besides political lines. The problem, though, right, is the perception, right? The perception. You believe that that is the case. And so there will be people who would write about that being the case. And then you would be able to find that information and showcase it as, see, look, there's the evidence. But it's the same thing with the Jewish population supporting Zionism. That what we're seeing with the amount of activism against Israel and Zionists, the people who support Zionism are themselves Zionist and might very well be Israeli. So that's the thing. If not every Israeli person is Jewish in the slightest sense of the word, right? Most people who end up in Israel are from Europe and America, right? So they're European and Americans. They're not Jewish in any sense. They don't even practice the religion, right? They just want to go to Israel so they can get free stuff and take the housing and land from Palestinians because it's easier or cheaper to do than in their home country, which makes them colonizers and makes them heinous criminals. All of which is to say, every poll that we have polled about Israeli support of Zionist ideology, that unfortunately is pretty freaking high. And we can see that right here. I don't know if this is a poll. No, this is more of like the history. Well, and there's the Israelis are inhabitants of Israel. Most of them are Jews, but the population also includes many other ethnic groups, so on and so forth. Zionists believe in the right of existence of a Jewish state that can be both religious and non-religious Jews as well as non-Jews. So here's the thing, right? It's from the Anne Frank house, and they are very much so sanitizing this definition here. At least it does talk about Nakba. Zionism is often seen in a negative light. Zionist is regularly used as an insult. So this doesn't actually answer the question. I thought there would be a poll in one of these responses. Well, I wasn't prepared to find that answer, that number, so my apologies. Maybe Anna can find a poll that would suggest it. But I know when we were reading articles, it was constantly in the upper 70 percentile. So, let's see. One of the least popular presidents in history at this point in his presidency, and that's including himself in the first term, where he was also the lowest, least popular president. Yeah, sad that the AfD is growing. Fascism is growing almost everywhere. Yeah, which is very disturbing considering we already fought a world war over fascism and determined that fascism was bad, and yet now it's making a a comeback everywhere. Do you think Trump faked the election stats, or he only won because of the way the states count votes? Oh no, I am becoming more and more convinced that he stole the election and that Elon Musk helped him because, one, he's moving towards ending elections outright in the midterms. He is 100% trying to create a circumstance in which only Republican candidates can win, or a majority of Republican candidates can win, whether that's redistricting efforts, whether that's intimidation with ICE and Homeland Security, whatever it is. He is actively invading his cities in America with the military and ICE to normalize their presence, and will start putting them at polling places. And I think because, again, of how ridiculously, overtly corrupt this administration has been, the fact that no Democrat has brought up the veracity of the election at all, or even pointed to the unconstitutionality of this and like raising a clamor for impeachment, tells me that it was a complicit job, as in both sides of the coin were like, all right, we're gonna let Trump win this thing. He's gonna turn America into a dictatorship, and then Team Blue is gonna have the opportunity to have their seat in the chair. And that once, and I do believe we're gonna find that truth. We're gonna find that out one day in the future, whether it's during my administration or sometime down the line. But when we discover that truth, it's gonna rock the very foundations of our nation's democracy. All right. They cheated. The voting machines were rigged by Elon. They both basically admitted it publicly. But what's more, even if it wasn't with the admission, the statistical likelihood of every single swing state switching to Trump by the margin that it needed to swing to go to Trump is impossible. And we covered that on stream several times. And that there's been surprisingly little research done into those statistical anomalies. And the one guy who did it was like, hey, I just did it because I like the numbers. So, yeah. What's the difference between believing in Zionist ideology and being a Zionist? I mean, I suppose that would be the same question as what's the difference between believing in Christian ideology and being a Christian, right? Believing in Christian ideology, you can believe in that by being Muslim if you want. But being a Christian means you're actually living those ideals. And so a Zionist believes that Israel is the chosen land of God and that they are entitled to those lands that were promised, right? Zionists go out and get that land, whether or not those means are legal. And they end up becoming a supremacist state, a religious supremacist state, right? And we can say what we want. Oh, well, what about the Muslim states and the Sharia law? It's like, yeah, it's the same thing. Zionism is to extreme Islamic extremism as the KKK is to Christianity, or the Dark Ages, or the Inquisition was to Catholicism, right? The extreme zealotry of a belief doesn't change the fact that the belief still exists and that the extreme zealots have nothing to do with that belief, right? The zealots are taking the idea of the belief and weaponizing it. The belief itself has nothing to do with their desire to conquer or to control. That's the weaponization, right? Any religion, any ideology, you could weaponize socialism, you could weaponize communism, and we've seen it in history happen. We have literally seen weaponization of communism and socialism in history, right? That's unfortunately the way it is. What we need is to get away from the haves governing the have-nots, because fundamentally we have not evolved as a species past feudalism. Well, that's not true, Sam. We have cell phones. Okay. And we don't have kings and lords anymore. Sure. Oh, boy. I have a feeling that person's going to be a troll. But anyway, the point that I was making about feudalism is, okay, fine, we don't have kings and lords, but don't CEOs control a quarter of the or all the wealth in the world right now? Is that not a de facto king? Well, there's lots of CEOs. Okay, so there's a lot of kings and principalities going around. Okay? Amazon crashed the entire fucking internet. And that's one company, with Jeff Bezos being one CEO. And he has that much influence over global tech? I mean, come on. If that's not a king in all but name, or a lord at the very least in all but name, then what is? Again, inherited wealth, inherited domain, inherited power, inherited influence. That's feudalism, right? We, the people, still toil. We still labor. We still have to pay all of our resources and taxes with very little rest and very little recreation, with dreams to aspire towards the lords and ladies above us. We have not gotten past feudalism. We just have fancier things to distract ourselves with and then to depend on, right? Because now the internet is a requirement in society, right? Electricity is a necessity in society, right? Never mind just food, clothing, and shelter. We have so many new things. We need cars, right? We need at least mass transit if we don't have cars. And if you have neither, guess what? You're not working. So we have more things to rely upon, more things that are out of our individual control, and we've already lost community. And at least during the ancient feudalism, right, the Middle Ages and such, the villages could rise up against their lord and burn down their mansion and be like, all right, we're going to not kill your wife and small children if you stop being a bastard. And then he was like, you know what? You burned down my mansion. I hear you, right? And that was originally how unions formed. Factory owners would lock the people into the workplace and force them to live in indentured servitude. And people were like, no, we're going to burn this motherfucker down. And he's like, oh shit, you did. Hey, so next time, please don't do that. It's like, well, pay us. We're all saying it. We're going to unionize and force you to pay us. He's like, all right, you know what? That is better than you burning down my factory and dragging out my family and beating me to death in front of my children. All right? So unions were the modern day serf uprising, and protests are the modern day unionizing, right? We're still doing the same damn things. We're just doing it with AC and drinkable water, right? Because back in the day, you wouldn't want to drink the water. All I'm getting at, right, is we can't get past ideology and weaponization of ideology until we can get past the haves and the have-nots. Also, Zionism started because Europe wanted to get rid of the Jewish population in Europe, which is also true. I got some faith from the No Kings protest, but why wouldn't he? When has Trump ever been held responsible? He might as well stop elections. Well, that's the thing. That's what he's in the process of doing. Because the Supreme Court just gave him the green light to send the military into Portland, which there is no justification to do that. But the courts gave him the credibility to do it. And so now he's going to do it. Which then he's going to threaten to send the military and ICE to polling locations. And then he'll be stopped by this judge. And then a different judge will be like, actually, you know what? That's good to go. And then it's going to happen. So he's going through a bunch of extra steps. It's taking a much longer amount of time. But eventually, it's going to get to the point where the boots come marching home. So, Okay, so you did find a poll. Let's go ahead and throw that on the screen here. Nearly half of Israelis support army killing all Palestinians in Gaza. So remember how I said that the stat that you saw about Jews supporting Zionism, it probably wasn't that. It was probably this. Israelis do support murdering Palestinians. And this was April 3rd in this year. I'm fairly certain everyone in this picture is dead. And then your other link didn't link for some reason. Hold on. Can we... Why isn't it letting me ban Hamas? Can you get rid of... Why is it not linking? What the fuck? There we go. Anyway. Let's see. I see then why you don't think it's the majority of Jews when I said Zionism. I meant like the ideology that they agree with this stuff. But that's the thing, they still don't. Right? They still don't. Right? It's like saying a majority of Christians support Nazism just because they support Trump and his fascism. Well, that's conflating two different things. Right? And I would argue that most Christians don't support Trump and fascism and Nazism, right? I think a lot of Christians are so used to being controlled by an authority that they will follow an authority if it means their safety and, what's the word I was looking for? Not resolution, but, why can't I think of salvation? There we go. So they instead of God providing salvation to the faithful, a lot of Americans that happen to be Christian look to Trump as the salvation, except they are witnessing that he is betraying them as well. So again, you're pushing really, really hard that Jewish and Zionist ideology are the same, or that Jewish people follow or want to follow Zionism, but that's just not true. And that forcing the narrative that Jewish people are Zionist or believe in Zionism is exactly what Israel is trying to do to get away with the Holocaust that it is committing against Palestinians. By trying to, it is literally Israeli propaganda to say that Jewish people support Zionism, because then it means that, well, Jewish people support this idea, and if the idea happens to be seen as bad, well, then that's anti-Semitic. You're literally playing into the hands of Israeli propaganda. Who do I like more, Hamas or Mamdani? Jesus. That's a gotcha question if I ever heard one. I don't even know why you responded to him, Anna. You should have just banned him outright. Called it a day. Right. So, and that's the point I was making, Ari, is that you are literally sharing Israeli propaganda, which is what we were talking about. The Israeli propaganda will try and conflate Zionism with Judaism, and anything that really supports that, when the reality is the opposite, is just more propaganda. So, anyway, moving on from that conversation, because we are 40 minutes into it and one video down. So, we've had Florida Man quite a few times on stream.
With
now
that breaking news
for Florida Teen. Now, Florida Teen claimed that he was kidnapped and shot by Latinos, meaning racist, xenophobic, white teenagers are trying to get innocent people killed or deported by claiming that they were the victims of a kidnapping. So that's the premise.
In just the last 2 hours, we learned that 17-year-old pictured here, reported to be kidnapped last night, is safe. Good afternoon. I'm Greg Warman.
And I'm Martha Sagowski. Deputies now say the original report of a kidnapping was completely made up, a lie. The initial Amber Alert scene was on Southwest Highway 484 in Denellen, but now investigators tell us they no longer believe he was taken from there. Channel 9's Nick Pampantonis live in Ocala. Nick, he wasn't kidnapped.
Yeah, that came from a text that he sent his mother. There was no van filled with Hispanic men, and investigators are now trying to figure out why he said that to her.
We want to help bring this 17-year-old boy back to his family.
The panicked search for 17-year-old Caden Spate ending around 1 o'clock Friday afternoon when deputies found the boy whose face was plastered on an Amber Alert 30 miles from where he told his mom he was shot and kidnapped.
We are with him right now, and he is in good health.
Deputies say Caden's story fell apart after they could find no evidence of a kidnapping. Instead, they say
no evidence of a gunshot either, right? That would be the most obvious one. Is there a bullet wound on this kid?
he visited this Walmart and several other stores. Surveillance photos showing him buying a bike, a tent, a sleeping bag, and other gear. Neighbors also questioning the boy's claims hours before deputies dismissed the kidnapping narrative.
That same boy came by on a bicycle, just driving slow right down the middle of the road. So if he was shot at on 484 and then stopped here and the Hispanics kidnapped him, well, why weren't they here when I passed by?
You know what, though? I'm actually surprised. I am actually surprised that they found interviewees. I mean, look at how angry this guy is. They found white people in Florida bashing on this kid. I'm impressed. I was not expecting this story to go that way. I thought they were going to try and rile up, you know, anti-immigrant, this, that, or the other. But no, they're like, nope, this kid was a piece of shit. Nice. No human being is born with an inherent ideology. Right. Every ideology is taught. Why is it then, right? Well, ideology could just be gained. Okay, right. But why is it then that most of the Middle East is Muslim? Why is it that most Americans happen to be Christian? Why is it that most Europeans happen to be Catholic? Why is it that most people in India happen to be Hindu or Muslim, right? Why is it that most people in China happen to be Buddhist? Because they were born there, they were surrounded by that culture and that history, and to fit in, because humans like to fit in, that is what people adopt and adhere to. Otherwise, China might be Muslim. China might be freaking Norse for all we know or care, right? If ideology would just be this universal concept of, you know what? It doesn't even matter what our country, what my community, what my society adheres to. I happen to like ancient Egyptian mythology. I am now a follower of Anubis or Osiris or Amun-Ra. Like, it doesn't, if that were the case, right, all of the world's religions would still be in large practice today. But that's not the case, because religion is as cultural as food and art and music. What is wrong with that boy? Yep. Okay, Ari, I'm not going to argue with you about conflating Judaism with Zionism. If you're really that dead set on comparing the two and uniting the two, then that to me is anti-Semitic, and I'm not going to promote that on the page. And I know we're hurting for viewership, but like, we're not promoting Israeli propaganda on the website, right? We're not doing that. I haven't looked at hers there. So the link that I just picked up, which was from hers, the Jewish Chronicle, anti-Zionism. Most American Jews do not support anti-Zionism. Okay, maybe that's what you were looking at, but it's the Jewish Chronicle, right? Which implies that it is going to be a very skewed poll for it, right? And this was, again, from October. Where was this? So they're talking about in the middle of 2024, during the height of the hysteria, which was being pushed by Israel and America as anti-Jewish. Because they wanted to conflate Zionism with Judaism, right? So, again, what conclusion do you want to make with the fact that you think being Zionist and a Jew are the same, right? I mean, that's fundamentally here where I'm at. I'm fundamentally against that belief. And even if a majority of Jews were Zionist, that doesn't change the fact that Zionism is an evil ideology that is causing a modern-day Holocaust, is actively, publicly committing genocide against the Palestinian people, and that every single Zionist should be held accountable for it, right? And it's not anti-Semitic to say that. And I'm not even... And I'll let that speak for itself, apolitical. All right. The huge outage. I'm kind of curious because it was global.
That
this outage.
many Americans are waking up to massive internet outage impacting major websites, major apps, gaming platforms, including Amazon, AT&T. Just look at this list: Delta Airlines, Disney Plus, Facebook, Hulu, Snapchat, United Airlines, Venmo. More than even I'm even mentioning there. At the center of this is Amazon Web Services, that major provider of cloud services for all sorts of companies. AWS says now it has identified the root cause, and also saying this, that we continue to observe recovery across most of the affected AWS services. We continue to work towards full resolution and will provide updates as we have more information to share. Said another, we're not saying a lot right now. Let's get over to CNN's Bryn Gingras. I started noticing this morning on multiple levels as it was unfolding. What's happening?
Yeah, and that's basically it, right? So they connect the business to us, the consumer, through apps on your phone. So if you're waking up, you're tapping on an app, you're like, how come it's not working?
Exactly.
This is likely the problem.
You're getting like the ring of death.
Yeah, the ring of death.
Exactly.
They're actually saying, please submit to technical issues. Keep doing that, even though we're not answering them right now, or we are trying to get to them. There's basically a huge backlog. As you just said, there's been some significant progress in this. This happened way overnight, so there has been some significant progress, but still there's a huge backlog of all these apps and all these companies that are looking to basically get restored. So there's even issues at the airport. I'm hearing about people who are trying to check into their flights and they can't because they can't do it through the phone. So there's so many.
So again, we have become so dependent on the internet, right? People at the airport can't check into their flights. We can't order food, groceries. We can't go to the restaurant and look at a menu, right? There's or kids in school, right? Especially the homeschool kids, or at work, you can't use Zoom, you can't use Teams or whatever else, right? We have so much stuff integrated with the internet, like and these different applications to do everything from travel to work, that when one company controls a major share of that market, that responsibility, and it goes down, it can cripple global communications. Like that's exactly why monopolies were made illegal in the United States of America. But of course, with this administration and the previous administrations being extremely pro-capitalist, those protections started to get eroded or ignored outright, and this is the result. Whenever the internet goes down at my job, we can't even use the phones. Right. When the internet goes down at my job, the only thing I was doing there was rendered irrelevant. So, yeah, for the most part, we rely on networks, whether they're local or connected to the world web. It's just so much depends on it. And then a lot of the streaming services or even gaming services require an internet connection now. So you can't even play your games. You can't even watch your shows. You can't even watch your movies. Even if you have a physical game or a physical DVD, unless you're connected to the internet, it won't let you use them. Never mind your smart TVs, right? So why have we shackled ourselves to the internet through paywalls, through these industries to get an extra piece of the pie from our money and resources? When they go down, they're not going to give us money back. They're not going to compensate us for those outages. They're not going to compensate us for a lack of accessibility, right? Because there's nobody holding these pieces of garbage accountable. So that's a big problem. That's actually a really good policy to add, though. Gonna add that to the website eventually here. So that means when you do strikes or how you call that in America, that puts even more pressure since other countries will have trouble from that too, right? Workers do have a lot of power, but I think what you were getting at was that Americans specifically, especially, rely on the internet to communicate those protests and to sign up here and do this and share the protest date and the location there, right? Americans rely heavily on the internet and heavily on social media to get involved with activism or direct action when those are deeply, deeply controlled by the very systems we're protesting against. And the problem is because we lack community. We don't have the word of mouth. We don't have the unions. We don't have just easier direct telecommunications anymore. We have to rely on some sort of digital platform because that's all we know at this point, because the Democrats have done such a good job of dismantling grassroots organizations in their infancy that none of them have been able to grow into a direction that could actually be beneficial. So, they just canceled food stamp payment for everyone in America. Yes, they absolutely did that. And I think it's effective. It's either it was effective on the 15th or something, but yeah. Or maybe it was the 20th. But they 100% canceled food stamp payments for part of the shutdown. Meanwhile, ICE is still getting paid. ICE is still getting paid their bonuses, and every member of Congress is still getting paid with all of their benefits. So, do with that information what you will. But if you take Facebook away, won't boomers go to the streets immediately? No, they won't. I mean, here's the thing. Did they go to the streets over Epstein? Did they go to the streets over deploying the military on U.S. soil? Like, those two things should have been everybody is in the streets moments. Like, those should have been red lines in the sand. Okay, now we're marching, right? 2 by 2, hurrah. Military being deployed in U.S. cities and those soldiers obeying those orders should have been the straw that broke the camel's back, even if the Epstein list wasn't. But the fact that we had the immigration raids, we had Musk ransacking the Treasury, the government shutdown, this, that, and the other. We've had so much shit happen. The trade wars, the tariffs, threatening to annex Canada and Greenland. Like, we have had so much dumb shit happen in this country that would have otherwise, ordinarily, in any other country, caused immediate civil unrest. We have allowed to happen with barely so much as a whisper in pushback. The king feasts while your kid starves. Right. And honestly, there needs to be more language like that. There needs to be more emphasis that Trump and his administration and his allies are not suffering during this government shutdown, but you are. You're losing access to your taxes, your retirement, your 401k, your food benefits, your college, your education, infrastructure. All these things that we rely on, that we don't think about, are being taken from us while they get to live in the lap of luxury still. Okay, so there is a lot at the end of the playlist. Well, that's good. Oh, so they changed their mind about the food stamps? People don't rely on any of those things to get through their days, though. Well, not unless they do, right? People on SNAP and on Section 8 are a large demographic and a growing demographic. And having those things cut off, a lot of them, turns out, aren't black people that are taking advantage of the system, but white people who are just poor, right? Because it's poor people who are struggling in the wealthiest country in the world who need these things. And yet the demonization is, well, look at the black family, look at the Latino family, look at the Asian family or the Hindu family, the Muslims. Oh, they're taking your benefits. No, it's everybody on these things proportionate to the demographic of the population. Nothing is better at pushing people towards rebellion, like actually having to watch your kids starve while the monarchy feasts. True, yet I guess there hasn't been enough starvation because, again, 60% of working Americans are living in poverty. 60% of working Americans. That is over 75 million Americans. It's actually closer to 90 million. What? 60% of 155, right? Whoops. That's 93 million Americans are living in poverty. 93 million households. Or working families, working adults. Because you would imagine that maybe if it's families. Either way, it's still entirely too many. 93 million people living in poverty, or who are working are still living in poverty, to include their dependents, is entirely too much. And again, a lot of that is children, and a lot of that is the elderly. 1 in 5 kids go hungry. 1 in 5 kids, their only meal is at school. So, I mean, again, if that wasn't enough for rebellion in the past, why would it be enough for rebellion now? He's also... The grocery stores in America, food stamps put almost $1 billion a year into that sector. Right. Well, every single one of his economic and domestic policies are decimating the local economy. Because he doesn't understand it. He doesn't care either. And the people that he surrounds himself with don't care either. Again, you don't run a country by gutting the foundations of the country. You just don't do that. It's 70% are low-income families. Oh, yeah, and then... really protest over the cost of living crisis and healthcare. Right. There's none of that either. We have the no kings because that's what's allowed to be portrayed in media. But Luigi killed the healthcare CEO because of unrealistic and unbelievably exorbitant and extortionate health insurance costs. And then that was in the news for a little bit until people began to side with Luigi. And now that's not even being talked about because they're afraid that society will start siding with Luigi or, siding against the health insurance industry, right? So, again, which one of these straws, which one of these pushing people to the brink and towards rebellion is actually going to finally do it? Because if it hasn't happened yet, what will? I meant to say my last comment as an argument in favor of you. No, that's fair. Red states are also the highest receiver of food stamp funds, right? And because they cannot balance their own budgets because they don't know how to govern, they only know how to make poor people poorer and rich people richer. That's it. That's the only thing red states know how to do, and it shows in every single metric: healthcare, education, life expectancy, quality of life, cost of living, etc. People are struggling in red states, but are being brainwashed to believe that it's Democrats and liberals and black people's fault. It's the brainwashing. It's the propaganda. You get rid of the propaganda and replace it with truth, yeah, there's going to be a lot of cognitive dissonance, but you start peeling back those layers quickly.
The authoritarians divide and conquer.
Here's some good news.
Create an other.
Chicago.
And then they pick on it.
Resist.
Pick on the person and harass them, jail them, and that's all used as a distraction, so they can steal as much as they can, maintain power. Right? We all know history, so that's what he's doing. And we have masked goons roaming the streets, hiding their faces.
Okay, he's not the most charismatic speaker in the world, but resisting. And there's a shit ton of people behind him also protesting. Now, here's an interesting one.
The guy in the white shirt.
An ICE officer is being arrested or being pulled over for drunk driving, and he's trying to snark his way out of it. Let's watch and enjoy.
That's the colonel.
Colonel, don't mean shit to me. Okay, well. I'm federal.
Okay.
I'm trying to get home. I got my boys with me.
Who do you work for?
DHS.
Do you have your ID with you?
No, I don't.
Okay. But if I called them, they'd verify that you're a
100%,
department?
bro.
Okay. You don't have any type of credentials or anything that say you're DHS?
Not on me, no.
Okay. All right.
I only bring my weapon with me if I'm...
Okay. But you don't have any weapons on you right now?
No, I don't.
Okay, so what I want to do, I want to talk to you away from the kids. So I'm going to ask you to step out of the car, and we're going to walk back to the back of your car, okay?
Are you fucking serious right now?
Yes, sir, I am.
You know what? Call my supervisor.
Okay. Do you want to do the exercises or no?
I'll do it. But you know what? What's homeboy doing down there? You know, guys, come on.
Make sure we all sit because we're inside of the water. You don't want to get hit. You don't want you to get hit. That's why we're trying to do the exercise. That way we can move on.
Are you Haitian?
That's nothing to do with my wrist, buddy.
My question was, are you Haitian?
It doesn't matter. It doesn't matter where he's from. Okay. Look, man.
Wow. So the racism that is instilled in these DHS officers. Wow. That's wow. That's so not only is the audacity strong with this one, right? Like I'm drunk but I'm a DHS, I'm federal, I don't have any credentials on me, call my supervisor. And then there's a black guy there. It's like, "Are you Haitian?" Bruh. Like, again, this right here, this should be all the evidence any American needs to be against this administration, to be against ICE, to be marching in the streets, that these people are out of control and that we are losing our civil liberties by the day. And yet we're still not marching in the streets. Only when we're organizing it with our friends and we can go to brunch afterwards, right? No King's protest, 7 million turnout. Fantastic. But we need 7 million people marching in these streets for the next 90 days straight, so those numbers can keep growing. One protest a month ain't gonna do it. It's never gonna do it. And the fact that these things are happening anyway, and people only show up the once a month, proves like whatever our critical melting point is still far, far down the road if this and all of the other heinous shit that's been happening isn't enough. And he got arrested. Yeah, drunk with his kids in the car. Right. Exactly. Felony child abuse. Felony endangerment, sure. Could have gotten his children killed. Right. So, does it show
I really need you to do the
arrested?
exercise. If you don't do it, then I'm going to say that you're refusing to do the exercise. I get it. You need a minute. I gave you a few minutes, okay? But
Let me talk to your supervisor.
not right now, sir.
Yeah?
If you're a cop, whatever.
Yeah, I'm fucking law enforcement,
Okay,
dude.
then stop talking and sit in the back of the car and stop. Stop this.
Come on, let's go.
Stop this.
What about my kids?
We're gonna take care of it.
No,
But
I'm
first
not
I need-
going in there. Let me talk to your supervisor.
Again, you can talk to him in a second.
Nope. Not going in there without my supervisor.
Okay, let's go to the other side. Come here.
There you
Come on,
the
don't pull
old
against
the
me.
old arm
Let's
behind
go.
the
I'm
back.
not moving. Bro, don't fucking do this.
Let's go.
Lame.
Okay, I'm gonna-
Don't be late,
Come on,
bro.
we're not doing this. Come on, let's go.
So you guys are fucking shut.
Come on, put your feet in.
Stand
Look
up.
at
Stand
the
up.
gut
Come on,
on that
Stand up.
ice
Put your
agent.
feet in, man.
Look
No.
at the
Man,
gut.
Don't be a kid. Come on.
Look at the wiggle wiggle.
Where are my kids?
Stand up. Put your feet in.
What?
Put your feet in. Put your feet in. You don't want to make this worse already. Come on, man. Let's go.
You gotta sit in the car, man.
Going to jail for DUI, which is a misdemeanor. If you don't cooperate, you go to jail for resisting. It only makes it worse.
Come on, put your.
Yeah, so funny that they should mention going to jail for resisting. They at least charged him with something. They at least told him that he was going to jail for something, right? I'd like to, point out that unless you are actually charged, you can't be resisting arrest because you're not being arrested, right? And then in the state of Ohio, ask me how I know, they have up to 96 hours to charge you with something. So you can be detained and arrested and thrown in jail, and then for 4 days straight, not have a single word said against you. They can actually go to their desk, pull out a book of laws, and flip through the pages with their supervisors and friends to help the arresting officer figure out, well, this could apply. Oh, wait, actually, that could apply. Again, police have entirely too much power in this country, and they abuse that power every single moment of every single day, and every single state has a different way of implementing it. At least this officer charged this guy to his face, which then actually predicates, if he continues to resisting arrest, which again, I don't like the fact that resisting arrest is a crime in the first place. That's almost like your right to breathe, right? Resisting arrest, that just comes, nobody wants to be arrested, right? So why would you just throw that in there? But I will say at least this cop did charge him with something, because altogether too often people are arrested and handcuffed without any charges being said to them, or their rights or anything. Just you're handcuffed, you're in the back of the car, and that's that. People, and then if you try and, fight for your rights and defend your rights, you get punished further. Again, we need massive police reform. Massive police reform. Because this garbage, we need a federal policing standards. They need to be adhered to. We need to demilitarize our law enforcement and refocus on, actual criminal issues. So, all I'm saying is there's some schadenfreude here, and this cop seemed to have done their job the way they should have done their job. But the fact that they're threatening for resisting arrest, that's the part that really grinds my gears, because it's like, dude, you already got him on the DUI. Obviously, he's drunk and belligerent and whatever else. Why are you going to charge him with something else? That's just being petty, right? And the fact that it's resisting arrest, it's just like a catch-all charge that is so fucking stupid. It's just, I have the power to do this to you, and I'm going to do it. A cop threatened me with juvie when I was 14 years old for trying to help my mom explain what happened during an accident. Yes, cops are fucking trash. We can't even enforce local police standards. Right. Because who's holding the police accountable? Nobody. I was trying to help. She said that I was obstructing justice. Right. Obstruction, resisting arrest. There's another one that's similar to obstruction of justice, but isn't obstruction. It's like interference with lawful duties or something like that. Everything under the sun, which impeding an officer, criminalizing you asking questions, which is exercising your right. It's absolutely insane. So, I guess this would be the same one. Speaking, okay, so this is that in reverse now. ICE agents detain a police officer.
Also breaking right now, a Hanover Park police officer detained by ICE this morning. The Department of Homeland Security says the officer, who's from Montenegro, overstayed a tourist visa by more than a decade. CBS News Chicago investigator Tara Molina.
I don't buy that. How do you overstay a tourist visa and then be hired as a cop, which has mandatory background checks? Like, that would have came up before he even got the job. I just don't buy that. The USA has so many traits of a failed state, in my opinion. Well, it's not your opinion, it's the fact. It's the observable truth. Right. How did he pass the back? I guess we'll find out.
Is in Hanover Park with the story. Tara?
Joe, Boyovich hasn't worked here long. A post from the department detailed his graduation from the academy just this past August. No one from the department willing to speak with us today or provide a statement on his hiring or his detainment.
Take a look at your screen. This is the photo Hanover Park Police posted of 25-year-old Radule Boyovich celebrating his graduation from the Suburban Law Enforcement Academy. Boyovich was detained Thursday morning in what the government is calling a targeted enforcement operation in Rolling Meadows, calling Boyovich a, quote, illegal alien from Montenegro, here on a tourist visa that expired March 31st, 2015. They say he illegally overstayed his visa by more than 10 years. According to ICE, Boyovich provided his employee identification card confirming he is a police officer with the Hanover Park Police Department when he was detained, telling agents he wasn't carrying weapons because he's only authorized to carry his firearm while on duty. Homeland Security pointing out in a separate release, police records confirmed Boyovich was approved by the pension board this year. Records indicating his earnings cost taxpayers more than $200,000.
What is with this reporting? He is the victim here, and he literally got a work authorization. What? He's literally, they said it.
Provided his employee identification card.
He provided his employee identification card. Why the fuck do they care about his tourist visa then if he has an employee identification card? What the fuck? And then you're going to be like, oh, and it costs taxpayers more than $200,000. CBS Chicago. Then this is Chicago. Isn't Chicago fighting ICE? And you're going to do their job for them.
Taxpayers more than $200,000. The arrest happening as a federal judge ordered Chicago ICE Field Officer Director Russell Hott to appear in court next week to answer questions about several incidents where violations of a temporary restraining order were alleged, including using tear gas canisters against crowds.
Like, this reporter needs to make up her mind. She's reporting that this officer was a horrible, evil, illegal immigrant costing taxpayers $200,000. And then in the next breath is like, and the director of ICE in Chicago is being scrutinized for his agents doing a whole bunch of bullshit.
Seeing this confrontation between residents and federal agents on the southeast side on Tuesday. The judge also now requiring all agents working under the so-called Operation Midway Blitz, including agents with ICE and Customs and Border Patrol, who've been issued body cameras, to wear them and keep them on during law enforcement activities here. Those body cameras are meant to confirm agents are giving the court-ordered 2 warnings before using tear gas, rubber bullets, and other methods here.
These body cams will allow us to ensure that the real story is being told and that there's transparency.
Yeah, that was a roller coaster of reporting there. An absolute roller coaster reporting. Also, 2 warnings before using tear gas, which is against the law anyway, and rubber bullets against protesters, which aren't supposed to be fired point blank anyway. Like, this is, again, this is how far down the rabbit hole of fascism we've already gotten for decades, because tear gas and rubber bullets against crowds has been the norm since Vietnam, if not sooner, not earlier, right? So we've already been desensitized to gas and guns being used against protesters, which in of itself, any action against peaceful protesting is itself illegal, right? But that's become so normalized that we're just saying, oh, you got to give 2 warnings now. It's like, and you got to wear your body cam, and if you don't, well, we're going to yell at you again in a different way. It's asinine how this is being played out. And then the reporting that's happening here, throwing the immigrant victim under the bus while pointing out that he has papers, right? The work, where was that here?
From legally over, according to ICE, Boyovich provided his employees.
He had an employee identification card. Like, that's all the more evidence you need that he's allowed to be here. You can't just get one of those, right? There has to be legal documentation providing for the employee identification card. And they detained him anyway over a tourist visa. Like, so what? I go to Germany, and then 10 years later I go back to Germany and get detained for overstaying my first tourist visa? That's what this is. This is what this is. It's like, well, you overstayed your tourist visa. Say, yeah, because I have a W-2 authorization. Like, what? That doesn't even make sense. His first term was quite tame compared to this one. His first term, he didn't do much. He was an ass, and he made us look bad, right? He absolutely was an embarrassment to the country, but he didn't devastate the global economy or diplomacy with every country on planet Earth either. And he certainly didn't try and install and institute fascism in America with him at the helm. yeah, he tried to get some controls over, but for the most part, Republicans and Democrats held him accountable, and so did the courts. But now, there's been, 4 years between then, 4 years of losses of Democrats and 4 years of erosion of democracy on top of that, plus Project 2025 spreading its tendrils across all of the all of the institutions that it needed to do so, and all of a sudden you have a compliant state ready to transition into fascism. Yeah, this is, I mean, I don't know how else to describe it other than he was far more prepared to become a dictator this time around than he was the first time. All right, some No Kings footage. We got Bill Nye.
And critical thinking. Please welcome Bill Nye, the science guy.
Woo! Damn, Bill Nye needs bulletproof glass to speak? That's unfortunate. Again, the state of our country.
We love that song, Hello, D.C. Fellow citizens, it is wonderful to see so many of us out here today. We are here for the same reason our ancestors gathered here in 1776. We want our government to run without a king. Our government is based on ideas embodied in the Constitution. Among other remarkable features, it guarantees our freedom to speak.
You know what's crazy, though? It was not on my bingo card that Bill Nye, the science guy, would be a prominent activist speaker. That was not anywhere on my bingo list. That Bill Nye was going to be at some part at the head of the revolution, the activism, the activation of American dissent. That blows my mind away. This guy was the science kids show extraordinaire when I was growing up, which was 36 years ago. And now he's speaking in D.C. for activism and resistance against a tyrannical and oppressive state. That just was not on my bingo list. True, right. He had more support from the billionaires than Elon Musk, Trump did, from the previous conversation. I have to admit, I knew Trump was bad and would have voted for Kamala, but when Trump won again, I was not afraid because during the first term, my life was pretty good and the world seemed stable. When Trump won again, I was kind of okay with it because he was going to be strong and defeat China, Russia for the Western world. I'm glad I am not that stupid anymore to think that. Well, I thought what Trump would do would take 4 years to happen. I thought what we're experiencing today in October is literally 9 months to the day after he got sworn in. I thought this moment of ICE, of aggression against other countries, of supporting Israel, of sending troops and stirring up chaos and attacking countries off the border to accomplish his goals, billionaires this, billionaires that. I genuinely thought all of this, what it's taken 9 months to happen, was going to take 4 years. I was naive in thinking that it was going to take at most 4 years. I thought maybe 2 years, enough for me to get into Congress first and be able to maybe put a brake on it or something, or use the stirrings of this to get elected to put a brake on it. But we're in full-blown fascism. Like, we are in full-blown active fascism 9 months into this administration. And I was definitely not expecting that. Oh, geez, where's my guy Neil deGrasse? Well, probably not based enough. See, Bill Nye, he's about that life. NDT, he just wants to be a Debbie Downer and ruin everybody's fun.
As we're doing here today, rather than doing one monarch's bidding, we have agreed to form a democracy to work together and to follow the laws that derive from it. No thrones, no crowns, no kings.
I actually want to listen to this whole speech. Not gonna lie.
As many of you know, I am a native Washingtonian. I grew up here within the city boundaries.
Oh.
And when you grow up here, the affairs of the federal government are very much a part of your life. I remember well sitting on my father's shoulders and waving to astronauts as we, as a nation, celebrated their accomplishments back in 1964. In 1964, that was the first year my parents could vote for president as citizens of the District of Columbia. We still do not have voting representation in the district.
Okay, so wait a second. Yeah, Bill must be in his 70s or 80s, to be honest, because if he was a kid and got to see the moon landing and stuff, then yeah, he's in his 70s, at least, pushing 80s. Also, Bill has apparently been based his whole life, which is friggin' awesome. Yeah, and he does look great, because he's looked like this since I recognized him when I was a kid.
Someday, perhaps. I remember well Martin Luther King's dream and Resurrection City, the plywood structures on the National Mall erected to house protesters who came to town demanding equal rights and opportunities, barely a month after Dr. King had been assassinated.
So if he remembers the 1968 Civil Rights Act and the assassination of MLK, that's, what, 68 plus 32 plus 25. So 32 plus 25, that's 57. I mean, maybe he isn't that old. Maybe he's only in his 60s. But he's been gray for as long as I've recognized him. Damn.
I remember well the Vietnam War.
Yeah,
the
that would make
mall
sense.
was shoulder to shoulder, much as it is today. Traffic stopped citywide. The protest movement expanded. There were protests around the country, and the war was ended. We are protesting in the same fashion today.
Goddamn, Bill,
Only today,
Bill, bring it.
The stakes are higher. Rather than abandoning a war against an elusive, perhaps sometimes imaginary foe, we are confronting the possible end of our republic. We are here to tell our lawmakers that what's going on in our government is wrong. They must stop the abuses of this petulant president and his circle of sycophants. No thrones, no crowns, no kings.
Bill.
This president and his associates cannot tolerate dissent. To them, our free speech is frightening. They are arresting people and denying due process in courts. They tried to silence television hosts. They're trying to fire or indict civil servants, prosecutors, judges, even their own cabinet members.
Oh, really?
But in this land...
Hold up. Trump tried to fire or indict one of his own cabinet members? Did we miss that one? Which cabinet member was trying to get indicted? That's nuts. I can't believe I missed that. Also, Bill Nye, part of the fucking revolution guy. What the hell? There were signs of the No Kings protest that said if Kamala were president, we'd be at brunch. Yeah, that is the problem. We are 100% at that point. From the last semester? Oh, the administration. Okay. Yeah, that was an interesting typo there.
These sorts of actions are not new. In 1776, our ancestors had had enough. They declared independence from a king by means of a document stored safely right over there on Constitution Avenue in the National Archives.
It's true.
Although it was conceived 249 years ago, the Declaration of Independence describes a train of abuses connected with an absolute authority, a king with absolute power. No thrones, no crowns, no kings.
Hey, good for him for getting the cheering.
Their king
part
had
built
refused
into
to
his
honor the
speech.
law. Their king had refused to let lawmakers be elected. The king had made court judges dependent on his will. They cited the king sending, quote, swarms of officers to harass our people. Their
Sound
language
familiar?
referred to, quote, cruelty and faithlessness scarcely paralleled in the most barbarous of ages. Their king was trying to, quote, render the military independent and superior to civil power.
I'm going to pause that there because I want to really emphasize that those things that he just read were from the Declaration of Independence from 1776. So, making the courts be tied to the will of the king, putting the military as an independent thing to undermine civil liberties, crushing civil liberties, that was talked about 249 years ago. Verbatim. And verbatim, that is the same exact shit that is happening today at Trump's behest. So, when we talk about kings, no kings protest, or that Trump is trying to make himself a king and this, that, and the other, this isn't hyperbole. It's not an exaggeration. Our own historical documents point out that the frustrations, the complaints, and the dictates that we were against are the very same, the exact same ones that are happening today under this administration. And that cannot be stressed enough.
Our founders even censured King George for cutting off trade with all parts of the world.
Ha! Again, King George cut off trade with all parts of the world. America, under Trump, is tariffing all of the world, which isn't quite the same thing, but it is alienating.
Did these actions sound familiar? 249 years later, no crowns, no thrones, no king. In short, the founders believed their king was, in their words, quote, totally unworthy to be the head of a civilized nation. No thrones, no crowns, no kings. Although the United Nations has been the world's leader, and although the United States has been the world's leader in science for decades, this president and the members of his cabinet even fail to accept scientific facts. Contrary to Article 1, Section 8 of the Constitution, they do not promote the progress of science. They suppress it to the detriment of our health, well-being, and international competitiveness. It is a formula for failure. How did we get here? It hasn't been one instance of abuse of the power of executive order by this president. It hasn't been just one twist in a court ruling. Instead, it has been years in the making. Enabled by this president, a group of Confederates has worked together to undo many of our traditions and understandings of fairness and of citizens' rights. And they've done this through an odd legal tactic to overwhelm our court system with legal game after legal game, trying to hold or impound money secretly in order to let legal deadlines pass, to pretend that people they don't know, who are from different backgrounds, are somehow not quite citizens and not worthy of respect under the law. No thrones, no crowns, no kings. Let us now raise our voices. We are here demanding a return to the rule of law. Let the world know that we will suffer no king. We will put the United States back on a course to lead the world in fair governance. Together, no thrones, no crowns, no kings. Thank you all. Let's change the world.
Not gonna lie. Not gonna lie. He could do a little bit better with the speech writing, but his delivery? That is exactly what we need. That is exactly what we need. That right there, that level of engagement with the crowd, that level of telling the truth about what is happening and tying it to our nation's history, right? That bringing the past and the present together to showcase how detrimental what's happening now is. Also providing evidence as to why we did it in the first place. Our heritage, our foundation is based upon resisting this administration the way it has been acting. And then highlighting that this has been complicitness through, he called it a confederacy, of individuals working together to undermine this. He even highlighted how it was being done, burdening the courts with legal game after legal game. Now, his catch and release was a little rough. No king, or what was it? Yeah, no kings, no crowns. Ah, dang. I missed it. I'm sorry.
Put the United States back on a course to lead the world in fair. No kings. Thank you. To lead the world in fair governance. Together. No thrones.
Oh, no thrones.
No.
My bad. No thrones, no crowns, no kings. His catch and release was a little forced in a couple places. But other than that, that's my only critique. His speech writing, the pacing. That's the only critique I have. Professor Ronan. But politician Ronan, outstanding. I wish we had more of this. I wish he was on CNN, MSNBC, ABC, CBS. I wish he was on each of these news networks being streamed over and over again, hours upon hours. This speech needs to be on loop on every news network. On the hour. Every hour. This is the kind of speech that is remembered in history. Or that can be looked at as a turning point in history if it results in action, of course, right? Martin Luther King Jr.'s I Have a Dream speech. That wasn't his only speech, but that was the speech that was the turning point of the civil rights movement, right? This speech could very well be written about and learned about in history 40 years from now. If this speech truly were the linchpin of resistance, of gaining traction, of being able to be like, nope, that inspired me to act on his words. I don't know that it necessarily will, because he's not a politician, but that's the level. That is the level of quality that speech held. And I'm glad we got to watch it. I'm definitely glad we got to watch it. Who knew Bill Nye would be such a great political speaker? Yeah. So when we run for Congress and we're building up our campaign, we want his endorsement. Let's see. I have to vote in 7 days, and the leader's biggest and arguably most fascist party in the polls, Geert Wilders from the party BVV, is just like Trump with his blonde hair. He is so bad. Only good thing is that close to no one wants to form a coalition with him. Yeah, well, again, fascism is on the rise everywhere. I will agree that this might be different. These are American families who usually get food stamps every month. They have to sit and watch their kids go hungry because of the shutdown, not because of not being able to apply or get qualified for them in the first place. Right. And that's the thing that nobody's capitalizing on. Not even his speech, right? He didn't mention the starving masses who aren't able to eat because of this shutdown, because of the king's demands, right? Again, nothing wrong with the speech that he gave. Nothing wrong. But did anybody highlight the government shutdown? Did anybody talk about how food stamps are a federal policy that back the state level funding of them, right? Nobody's talking about how the government shutdown is impacting people in real time and that it is 100% because of Republicans. 100% of Republicans. And nobody is truly arguing that. Not on the news, not even on like these types of things, independent news or streams, right? Very little discussion is happening about the real impact that this shutdown is having on real people and how it is solely in the lap of this administration. I am so cooked. Almost all the political parties want to cut healthcare to fund the 5% Trump NATO. Yeah, and see, that's ridiculous too, because why is it always cutting healthcare and education? Why is it never cutting the military or policing or raising taxes on the wealthy? Again, you don't have to cut shit. You could just raise taxes on the wealthy, on corporations. Why is that never the option? But it's always healthcare and education. Those are the first ones to go. Never rich people being slightly less rich. Let's see. If the government wasn't shut down, their kids would not be going hungry. Exactly. That's an easy thing to say. In a debate, even. That would be like probably the best place to put it in, or like in these interviews, these political pundit interviews. I felt so much better about politics when I lived in Norway. Yeah, I didn't have to care about politics when I was in Germany or Japan. That's for damn sure. But I was also active duty in Japan, so. You should really use the fact that none of the Dems have said anything about the food stamp shutoff, that they couldn't even pass a simple bill to keep that going until the government reopened. No, you're absolutely right. That is why we are running as a Republican in Ohio for Congress, because it's going to be really, really easy to paint a red brush against the incumbent in a red district and be like, look, he voted against your support too. And then it's going to be that much easier to harm the Democratic candidate because they already have lost the trust and faith of the American people. It is 100% avoidable. A simple bill could prevent American children from starving. And there are, parliamentarian processes to where the government wouldn't necessarily open up, but you could hold a congressional session to pass those types of individual bills. That we talked about that, I think, 2 weeks ago. So, first of all, Bill Nye, based. Was not expecting that. Was not expecting that. Second of all, we need more people pointing out the fecklessness of Democrats and Republicans to really push the narrative that this administration is starving our kids and our families. Like, that just really needs to be hammered home. Let's do another No Kings video. Just let's keep up the good for a second here.
Today, organizers say at least 7 million Americans took to the streets protesting what many called an abuse of power by President Trump. House Speaker Mike Johnson called it, quote, the Hate America rally. Here in New York City, police say 100,000 people turned out at multiple marches. They report no arrests. There were more than 2,600.
Damn, San Francisco had the organization there. That coming together. That's impressive. Do you, like, I wonder how they pulled that off. Did they did all of these people practice it at one point? Because it's so difficult to believe that you could just get a bunch of random people unless it was, like, already outlined on the beach or something. That's gnarly. But yeah, look at these crowds everywhere else. Well, that's crazy.
Events from coast to coast. They are all part of the No Kings movement, which accuses the president of behaving more like a monarch than an elected official. CBS's Elise Preston in Los Angeles leads us off tonight. Elise.
Jerika, thousands have turned up here in downtown Los Angeles to express their fear and frustration with the administration. Their message.
Well, so notice how they have the American flag, but it's flown upside down. Again, sign of distress. Perfectly lawful. But I guarantee you Fox News and Mike Johnson and those types are saying, look how they're disrespecting the flag. No, that is exactly the way you should fly the flag if you are deeply, deeply concerned with the state of the country.
No monarchs in America.
I want to be able to tell my future children that I was here, that I stood on the right side of history.
The nationwide rallies are...
You know what? That's the thing. Is that okay? Good. So this girl, I want to be able to tell my future children that I was here, and that I stood on the right side of history. That is the mentality we need to be cultivating, right? Is going to a protest by itself going to do anything? No. Especially when the protest is sponsored and supported at a national level. When it's organized by the party or like a major institution, the protest itself is a state-sanctioned, authorized dissenting location, right? But, that mentality that I was on the right side of history, that I did something, that is what we need to emphasize. That's what we need to celebrate so that we can take the momentum of the No Kings March and build on it with an actual civil movement that should hopefully turn into a general strike. The protests are great. Go to them. Recruit people like her, right? Whether you're DSA, whether you're Planned Parenthood, whether you're some other organization that's activist-minded, go to these protests and get these normies to show up to things the next weekend, the next evening, or whatever the case may be. The more we get these kinds of people in the mindset that what they are doing here can be done over and over and over again with the same impact, the sooner we can actually resist this administration and not allow it to get away with acting like the monarchy that it wants to be. So I just want to give kudos to this girl and the mindset that she brings to the protest, and that there are so many people like her at these protests. Do not write them off. Oh, sweet.
By President Trump, including his administration's crackdown on immigration and its threat to send the National Guard into cities, including Chicago and Portland.
The message is no kings. The message is the Constitution of the United States is a wonderful document that matters.
Republicans said the protests were nothing more than Hate America rallies.
I'm Torrance Mall in Washington, D.C. Before leaving the Hill this week, House Speaker Mike Johnson framed this rally as a Hate America event. Attendees disagreed.
Now, remember a few months ago where we were talking about the flag and protests, and I got tore to shreds for suggesting that we should be using the American flag in protests? That's why. That's why I said we need to use the flag in America. Because if we're going to protest things, especially about the state of our country, then this flag representing those ideals is exactly what should be present in those protests, right? If we do not like what this flag stands for currently, then we should wield that flag and raise it as high as we can for things that we do, right? And the fact that we are seeing this happen more and more now in protests, to include anti-ICE protests, is exactly the direction we should be taking. Take that patriotism and take that national pride and put it towards some good use. Granted, nationalism is itself risky, but, you know, we'll take whatever we can get at this point. It was the gays in San Francisco. Okay, there were hundreds of U.S. flags at the protest that I attended, which is great. That is outstanding. What is the legal consequence for doing unconstitutional things as a president? Well, treason is supposed to result in them being removed and everybody in their cabinet being removed. That's also in the Constitution. The reality is that Congress passed a law stating that there are no consequences for the president anymore. And the courts don't seem to be interested in overruling that. So the legal consequences are what'll be decided after the general strike or the popular uprising. I officially placed my name into the running to be your campaign speech and answer writer. Hey, speech writing isn't necessarily where I need help with, but you know what? I'm more than welcome because there are going to be times where speeches need to be written about very specific things with very specific information that still need to be engaging. You can't just go up there and give an inspired speech off the cuff, which is what I'm good at doing. So, you know what? I'll take you up on that, Steve. I'll take you up on that. Right, it should be impeachment. Trump was already impeached but not removed. And he hasn't been impeached once in this administration. Because the Democrats are too fucking cowardly to do it.
We love America. We hate what they're trying to do to America.
Today's rally is taking place in big
And
cities
look how many
and
elderly
small
people are
towns in
showing
every
up. Like, the average age in this clip is probably 60. Like, when was the last time Mima went out to protest? All I'm saying is, it's not just a youth movement. At least not this. And the more the youth get energized and actually work with their elders, the more this will gain steam. Like, this isn't a generational divide where it's only millennials versus the old people, or it's only Gen Z, carrying the whole torch. This is a very broad, spanning protest, and we need to be building on it.
State. I'm Allie Bauman in Morristown, New Jersey. Thousands attended today's rally 16 miles away from the president's New Jersey golf course. This county has deep roots in the nation's founding, known as the military capital of the American Revolution.
Dang.
Our forefathers fought off kings and said no kings for the first time. So it is full circle.
Judy Kelly is one of the local
I
organizers.
like that. See, that's what I'm saying. Bring the history of our rebellious nature to these protests. Highlight. We didn't tolerate it then. Why are we tolerating it now? I guarantee you, the more that is becoming the talking point, the stronger these movements will become.
This land, it does mean a lot to all of us who are working on it.
In Frisco, Texas, the protest was small but vocal.
I believe in democracy. I fought for democracy and sacrificed. And the things that are being done right now in this government are totally ridiculous.
In Europe, protesters were also small in numbers, but passionate outside the U.S. Embassy in London, in Paris and Berlin.
Being here in Germany, especially considering the history that's here, we have a unique perspective to look and say, that's not okay.
Even the Germans are like, oh. But they also have their own fascism problems with the AfD. But to the point, right? I think as much as we are definitely several steps into fascism now, like we are definitely not approaching fascism. We are definitely in fascism right now. We are also finally reaching a turning point where the narrative is actually shifting amongst the resistance, right? The dissenting opinions are finally being molded. It's molded, right? They're out here. No kings. This is what we fought against as a country, right? We don't like ICE, right? There's all these different moving parts. And now, 9 months into the administration, it is slowly becoming molded. Now, the question becomes, will it be formed and pressurized into a diamond and become the sparkling jewel of resistance and revolution, or is it going to be co-opted by the Democrats and then dissipate and dissolved? Right now, it's moving. But once the Democrats really sink their teeth into it, what happens next? Let's see. Even the MAGA moms are getting the text that won't get food stamps for at least a month. Right. That is true. So, I mean, there is... Again, a lot of people are beginning to realize and are going to feel firsthand how detrimental this administration is. I feel like most people have the idea that at the time of fascism, the government announces we are fascism, you can protest, resist. Right. And again, that's because so much of our history is written that fascism is only when it's wearing things on your shoulder bands with boot leather marching down the streets, right? When everybody's wearing these bad boys, which... Why do I have a tactical boot? Well, that's for another discussion. People only think fascism is Nazis killing Jews, when in reality, fascism is what's happening in America. Many MAGA believe the BS that it's all the Dems' fault. That's partially true, but it's both parties. Right. At least, and it's not even the Dems' fault. It's not this time around, not this shutdown. Where the Dems are at fault is, like the Clintons and the Obamas. The everybody since Carter who bought full into neoliberalism. That's when Democrats became complicit. Yeah, at least the PM of Germany is not an AfD member, but he also said something about making Germany or creating the largest army in Germany that Europe has ever seen. So, right, you do have to conclude it on your own, but I think people are being led in the right direction with this current brand of protesting, with the likes of Bill Nye giving those kinds of speeches and emphasizing the history of how we rebelled in the first place. I think we are going in the right direction. But again, we're going in the right direction now, once a month, until or unless the Democrats get their grubby little mitts on it. So that's where I'm at with it. Right, it's another prop. To go with my other props. Here's a good tip. If you live in a district that's mainly help your neighbors who can't get on the ballot box. I wouldn't use colored. I wouldn't use that phrasing. Help your neighbors who can't get on the ballot box. Of the main goals of the gerrymandering is to get the voting places as far away as they can from those people. So organize carpools and car trains to get as many folks as you can onto the ballot box. That's how Charlie Wilson won his first race. And I don't ever want to hear Germany is back on track. Yeah, well. So, if you live in a district that's mainly POC, that is the proper way of saying that, yes, you do want to help, because we've been seeing gerrymandering in polling districts being devastated in places like Mississippi, where the only polling district within 50 miles of black communities, it requires driving, not even mass transit. The same thing happened in Cincinnati. The voter disenfranchisement by eliminating polling places where brown and black people live. It's all good, simply. Because, I mean, there was a time when colored was, in fact, the right thing to use. And I think I even, in my early years, learned to use that phrasing. But I had to learn quickly that that was not correct. That's why we as the people need to use it against both of them. They won't know what to do when we start blaming both sides openly and loudly. Right. Fundamentally, that's where we need to be. Our organizing and our language needs to be towards unification as a people, not a coalescing under one party or the other party. That's what's gotten us to where we are today. That's what they did during the Jim Crow times. The POC all carpool to voting places. Right. And that's what we definitely want to facilitate. That's why the campaign focus is less about door knocking and talking about how great I am, and more so about getting out the vote and talking about the need to participate in civic duties. And yes, fine, our candidate Samuel Ronan is a great guy. You should also vote for him. So, oh yeah, this one made the rounds just recently.
As James Comey's attorneys are arguing that Lindsay Halligan was improperly appointed to her role, Trump's handpicked U.S. attorney in Virginia is attracting scrutiny for another reason. Lindsay Halligan reportedly spent some 33 hours on and off during a recent weekend texting with a reporter. Not in regards to Comey's case, but that of another one of the president's targets, New York Attorney General Letitia James. It was reporting on that case that kickstarted this back and forth that you're about to see. Let me explain. Anna Bauer is a senior editor for the nonprofit publication Lawfare. She recently posted about a New York Times story concerning the case that was being made against the New York Attorney General, and Halligan is the person, of course, who presented that case to the grand jury. Less than an hour after Bauer posted about it, Halligan messaged her directly on the encrypted app Signal that reporters often use. And according to Bauer,
Signal's still being
Lindsay
used.
Halligan wrote, quote, "Anna, Lindsay Halligan here. You're reporting things that are simply not true. Thought you should have a heads up."
Isn't that like a significant violation of attorney-client trial process? Like, you can't harass the media as the prosecuting attorney. You just can't do that. Like, that's... wouldn't that cause, like, I forget what the phrasing is, but, like, couldn't... a mistrial. Mistrial. Isn't that, like, literally textbook mistrial stuff right here?
What followed that initial text was more than a day of text insisting that the reporting from the New York Times was inaccurate. Now, Bauer hadn't reported that, but because she had repeated it online, Halligan was going back and forth with her on the merits of that reporting. Then, after a few hours, Halligan wrote, "By the way, everything I ever sent you is off record. You're not a journalist, so it's weird saying that, but just letting you know."
What? What do you think a journalist and a reporter are? Like, it's literally... Okay. I know there's got to be, like, a minor difference between reporter and journalist. Whatever it is, it's still the free press. All right, let's go with this. A journalist is a professional who collects, writes, and disseminates news and information to the public. That can include articles, journalists, blah, blah, blah. Reporters, which is... Go away. A type of journalist specialize in gathering and reporting news. So, a journalist is broadly the career field. And a reporter is somebody who's good at getting the facts. I didn't think... Oh, my God. I mean... Right. Contempt, which is flat out illegal. This could be big. And Lindsay Halligan is an absolute dunce. Like, an absolute dunce. Does, oh my God. That's freaking wild.
Bauer responded, quote, "I'm sorry, but that's not how this works. You don't get to say that in retrospect." She then tonight posted the entire...
Oh, hold on. I wanted to show that to everybody.
Anna Bauer is my source here to... I'm sorry, but that's... Anna, for being here, because I'll tell you, I know a lot of Trump people who are sending this story around when they first saw it. I just wonder, what was your reaction when Lindsay Halligan first reached out to you?
Oh, that's her.
Yeah, I was really surprised, and honestly, I was very curious to hear what she had to say.
I bet you were.
For some background, Caitlin, I did not have a pre-existing relationship with Lindsay Halligan in terms of speaking to her as a reporter. We had met one time
but not as a journalist. I know that, and I'm not the AG. I guess I'm more qualified. Yeah, evidently, anybody with a pulse is more qualified to be AG than this person. Jesus.
Years previous, while I was reporting on Trump's criminal investigations and criminal cases, she was on that criminal defense team. But other than that, she was very much a stranger to me, essentially. So when I learned that she actually was texting me, or I suspected that it really was Lindsay Halligan, I was interested to hear what she had to say.
I bet you were.
I report on the cases.
Hey, you're saving me hours upon hours of man-hours worth of work trying to find out information about this case and your stupidity. If you're just gonna give it to me, shit, fam, let's go. Oh, you're an idiot? Yeah, please tell me more. Like, that had to have been a journalist / reporter's wet dream, to have one of the dumbest people just tell on themselves in a complaining, whiny manner to them. Like, that would be like, I don't even know. Okay, that would be like working at McDonald's and the ice cream machine worked flawlessly all day. That would be like working in an office, right, with your spreadsheets, and they were just perfectly formatted the entire time. It would be like being an operator at a machine and not a single issue happening the entire shift. The entire shift, your operator aspect, the whole line, nothing goes wrong. It would be like the mailman not getting chased or bitten by a single freaking dog with a beautiful day. Just sunny enough, just cool enough, just warm enough to be able to do your job comfortably. A teacher without having to deal with fights or unruly children. Right? Like, This would be the perfect dream come true. Outstanding. Let's see. As I said on Facebook, the only person who Trump has ever hired that is actually qualified for their job is Stormy Daniels. That's funny. It would be like watching a whole stream without ads. Well, my stream shouldn't be actually posting ads. At least I don't think it does. If it does post ads, let me know, because I was under the impression it didn't. At my job, if every teacher and student was present all day. Exactly, right? Or if I actually had work to do at my job.
Is that she is prosecuting. And so I was curious, but it seemed like mostly what she wanted to talk to me about was a tweet that I wrote that summarized the New York Times reporting concerning certain grand jury testimony in the Letitia James case. And I think that's what really struck me as so surprising is that, you know, it's very much not often that you see a sitting United States attorney who unsolicited reaches out to a reporter to talk about something that relates to an ongoing prosecution, that relates to grand jury testimony potentially, because those are the kinds of things that there's policies, there's laws that prohibit disclosure about that kind of information. So while I don't think it's very unusual to have a prosecutor reach out about that subject matter, I did find it really strange, and especially considering we didn't have a pre-existing reporter-source relationship.
That was the politest. She broke the law. She didn't realize she was breaking the law. And she is the dumbest attorney general, prosecutor person I've ever had the misfortune of coming across. But my God, did she give me a gold mine to work with. So I think Letitia James is going to win her case simply because of this interaction. And the fact that whatever the hell her name was, I can't even remember now. The prosecutor, whatever her name is so belligerently incompetent is going to be the reason for it. Which is the same reason why Luigi Mangione's trial is going so well, because of everybody trying so hard to make him look guilty that they are in fact making it easier to dismiss the case. Ah, geez. Oh, okay, so less good news. Some really, really bad news.
Joining me now to talk about this, NBC News legal affairs reporter Gary Grumbach. So, Gary, let's start with the legal ruling tied to Portland. What does it mean? Does it apply to just the Oregon National Guard or the National Guard that the president was trying to send from other states?
So this is a ruling in the Ninth Circuit Court of Appeals that says the Trump administration, as soon as right now, can send in members of the Oregon National Guard onto the streets of Portland. And that's important because it's only the state of Oregon's National Guard. The other states that the judge had also said can't come into Oregon, it was a separate ruling that had not been appealed. And so this appeals court only dealt with this. And they say it's all about presidential deference. They say the president has the power to do this, and judges cannot say that he does not. Now, there was one...
The fuck you mean? I mean, I'm not yelling at him, but this appellate judge, has that judge read the Constitution or anything resembling the federal law? We have covered this so many times now, I can damn near quote it. The only time that the president can activate the National Guard is during a state of emergency, and even then, still, with the request of the governor of the state that he wants to activate the Guard in. You can't just arbitrarily, unilaterally activate the National Guard without the request of the governor. Now, let's see if this guy says that.
A dissenting opinion here, which I thought was very interesting. And she says in the dissent, quote, "I ask those who are watching this case unfold to retain faith in our judicial system for just a little longer." She's asking for an en banc review, which means the entire Ninth Circuit gets together and redecides this case. We'll see if that ends up actually happening.
And
so one judge that was part of the Ninth Circuit was like, yeah, he can be a king if he wants. While the other judge is like, no, the fuck he can't. And then is like telling the people like, hey, by the way, I'm not the crazy person. This guy's the crazy person. Give us a chance in the future after, you know, Trump takes advantage of this ruling, sends the military into Oregon, Portland, and we then tell him after the fact that that's not okay. Like, again, as Bill Nye himself said, this administration is just breaking the law so much, so egregiously across so many boundaries that the courts can't keep up with it. And then even when they do, the appellate courts give them a free pass. So again, you want to call it a conspiracy, you want to call it something else, that's fine. What it is complicity. You have the judiciary, the legislative, and the executive all working together at the federal level to allow this piece of shit to run and act like a king, like a monarch, like a dictator. We've already seen that the courts will tell him no, but they won't enforce it. And then the appeals courts will tell him yes. And then he'll run with it. So the point here is if there isn't an actual stop, an actual wall being put in place, it's not going to discourage this administration from acting, nor preventing this administration from acting. And that's the problem. So, I wanted to cover that. Speaking of garbage decisions. Give it a second to load.
New tonight, we learned that President Trump has commuted the sentence of former Congressman George Santos. In a social media post, President Trump said that Santos would be released from prison immediately. The former New York Republican representative was sentenced to 7 years in prison last April after admitting last year to deceiving donors and stealing the identities of 11 people.
He was commuted.
President Donald Trump commuted.
I mean, this is a longer version of that, but again, Santos was put in jail for 7 years for some major crimes and only got 7 years, which is in itself a problem. But then commutes it. It's like, you will be released immediately after whatever time served. That's, again, the criminal administration.
Commuting George Santos's prison sentence, sparking strong reactions among constituents in the district he once represented. The reactions follow Friday's announcement from the president about Santos's release. He was serving more than 7 years in federal prison after pleading guilty to fraud and identity theft charges. Janice Cretaroli says while she supports President Trump, she's questioning this move.
Well, I'm a Trump fan, but I just don't agree with what he did.
Santos.
I'm a Trump fan, but I don't like what he did. Bruh, that means you are not a Trump fan. That means you are either a cult member or you are delusional. Like, oh my goodness. Propaganda. That is our major issue here. Is what we are fighting against is propaganda. And the brainwashing that has occurred amongst many of our countrymen.
Was sentenced in April after admitting last year to deceiving donors and stealing the identities of 11 people, including his own family members, to make donations to his campaign.
Identity theft and lying to donation. Oh my God. Again, if you are a Trump fan and you see him time after time after time siding with criminals, siding with fascists, siding with horrible, horrible human beings doing horrible, horrible things, at what point is it like, oh, it's just one more thing? Bro, it's not just one more thing. It's everything. The Epstein birthday card wasn't enough? Well, okay, so a lot of MAGA Republicans are still like, well, I don't care that he was a pedophile. Bro, how can you say that with a straight face and think you are a good person or that he's a good person? Like, you are on the wrong side of history in the most blatant neon sign blaring strobe lighting way possible. Like, go left to not be on the wrong side of history. Follow Trump with all of the accoutrement, bad side of history. Like, good side, bad side, all in blazing letters. And Trump is here on the bad side. And Jesus Christ and everyone else is on the left side. And you go straight to Trump. Wild.
One resident who wished to remain anonymous says that scandal left her and others feeling betrayed.
I know people who voted for him thinking that he was presenting himself in good faith. And then when they found out that he was not, they felt, I think, even more betrayed than I do.
Yeah, I was about to say, like, she wishes to remain anonymous, so why are they highlighting this lady? But she's the lady doing the interview, so. Based centrist. He even stole the ID of his family to force them to donate to him. Like, that's nuts.
Because they voted for him, but I think it was a betrayal for all of us.
The former lawmaker reported to federal correctional institution in Fairton, New Jersey in July and was released from the facility Friday night. In a long post on X, Santos thanked the president for a second chance at life, adding that he's back as a new man, ready to work and do good. Still, some residents in Congressional District 3 remain stunned about his release from prison.
Yeah, because
that is one of the worst things that's ever happened to the United States in the last 20 years. He deserves to pay. He deceived the people big time.
I think he should have at least spent a little more time in jail before he was commuted. I mean, I understand that being in jail is difficult.
So wait, he was in jail since July? So he's been in jail for 3 months? I would go to jail for 3 months. Like, that would be probably a vacation compared to, like, dealing with, criminal whatever. 3 months on a 7+ year sentence for fraud and getting commuted by the president. That's...
But he did commit some serious crimes. So 3 months in jail, I didn't think would be enough.
Hi everyone, JJ here. Welcome back. Well, is Tesla's Cybertruck coming to an end? It certainly does not seem to be going well. Quartz has this fresh story here. Cybertruck sales tanked 62.6% in Q3 this year. That's right. They say Cybertruck sales plunged as the rest of the EV market surged. We've got some figures to show you what happened there in this EV truck market, emerging market, suggesting Tesla's flashiest project is becoming its weakest link. And The Verge says here, Tesla Cybertruck sales are flatlining. Things are so bad, Elon Musk is selling them to...
That's what I really wanted to highlight. It's that Elon Musk is buying Cybertrucks just to make the sales look better than what they are. That's how fucked that is. Now, that's pretty much all that really needs to be said about it. It's just nice to dunk on Elon Musk from time to time. It's good for the soul, right? Like coffee in the morning, tea in the evening, bashing on a Nazi. It always feels good. What is the reasoning for doing this? Honestly, I bet George Santos is going to be some sort of sycophant in the Trump administration in the next few weeks. What he can do, given that he has lost all credibility in his district and whatever else, I don't know, but he's obviously going to be a bootlicker. Why does he talk like that? That's why I paused this video. So, yeah. That's enough of that, right? So AI bubble. I think we can cover that one next.
Hello, welcome back to The Void. It's business talk time. No, I'm not on fire. Those are just my GPUs. I want to talk about the state of AI. Obviously, everyone's been asking, is it a bubble? Now, as someone who is terminally online, I have looked high and low for every conceivable opinion, and there are a lot of them, and I created a little slideshow. The state of the bubble. First opinion, Jim Cramer, the GOAT, saying, don't listen to the skeptics, keep an open AI mind, and he's a believer.
Even though there are countless AI skeptics, the market clearly believes that OpenAI can afford to spend tens of billions of dollars on AMD's highest-end chips in addition to NVIDIA's chips. I know that I am a believer.
Now, on the other hand, you have people questioning all the amount of investment in these AI companies. Someone actually asked Mark Zuckerberg, all this money you're investing, is it worth it? Mark says, maybe we're going to misspend, but it's worth the risk.
It's a lot. Which is crazy because, again, China created their own AI that already challenges, rivals, and or surpasses ChatGPT for $5 million. And we've been talking about billions of dollars for AI. So the question becomes less, is it about the AI bubble and the technology, or is it about the data centers and how they are going to be used to steal our identity and lie to us and control information in the United States of America? That's the question.
A lot of money. It is. And if we end up misspending a couple of $100 billion, I think that
First of all, I thought he was going with the beard. Now he looks like a robot again. Secondly, if we're misspending a couple $100 billion, it's not a big deal. Bro, have you lost all sense of reality because now you're like super duper rich and you have how big is Facebook? $1.84 trillion. Dude, you still can't spend $200 billion if your total market cap is 1.84. 200 billion is 10% of your fucking market cap. More than 10%. Closer to like 15%. What? This dude is not living in reality. What the hell?
is going to be very unfortunate, obviously. But what I'd say is I actually think the risk is higher on the other side. If you build too slowly, and then super intelligence is possible in 3 years, but you built it out assuming it would be there in 5 years, then you're just out of position on what I think is going to be the most important technology that enables the most new products and innovation and value creation in history.
So I'm gonna stop you right there, Zuckerberg. First of all, a binary chip, a binary processor. I don't care if you create a 1 billion core processor with a petabyte GPU, which I don't even think any of those things do exist, right? I don't think they can exist for that matter. So that's why they have the cubes, right? I'm getting too nerdy on y'all. All I'm saying is I know a little bit about what they're talking about, and what they do is they do a lot of series parallel processing with these chips, both the GPU and the CPUs, right? But when it comes down to the brass tacks, it's still a 0 and a 1 that has to do the processing. And there's got to be a lot of switches happening at the speed of light for that to happen. And then all of those switches have to trigger other switches that trigger other switches, right? A binary-based computing system can never, ever, ever exceed a quantum computing system. And that's the point. Instead of investing $200 billion in AI, which is more than likely going to be used for like DeepSeek and stuff like that, you should be investing in quantum computing with that $200 billion or more. Because the first person to create a quantum computer that isn't just an 8-state quantum computer, but a true infinite bit quantum computer, an infinite state quantum computer based on light or even electricity, whatever the case may be, as the energy source, anyway. That is what's going to take us into super intelligence, because our brains, again, that's why I have the pipe, Professor Ronan time here. our brains create neural pathways up to and including, how do you call it? Like, not factors of 17, but powers of 17? 17 dimensions. That's what it is. Sorry. Professor Ronan had a short circuit real quick. My 15th and 13th dimensional neuron bridge short-circuited. No. But brains and the neural pathways can have been reported up to 17 dimensions, right? Which would be, in context, a 17-bit process, right? 17 possible states per neuron, which is, you could argue that it's only 9 times more or 8 times more than a binary system, but that 8 times more is an exponential amount of possibilities, right? Instead of 2 times 2 times 2 times 2, it's 17 times 17 times 17. See where I'm going with that? All I'm saying is to so blithely talk about investing in modern day binary chips instead of quantum computing technology and theory, and then suggesting that that's the future for supercompute is absolutely insane. Sorry for being a doomer, but what does it matter if people like Trump are in power? It will not do anyone good. Well, that's the thing. It's not going to do the country good. It's going to do the corporations good, which are going to own and buy and flip and sell the country to dominate the people that much more. And that's the main point of what I was saying, is that from a technological standpoint, it's ignorant to spend $200 billion on binary computing systems. And from a control standpoint, or from a societal benefit standpoint, there's clearly none. It's about funneling control up to the people who do control, which would be big tech companies at the point. So yeah.
Obviously, it's from a CEO's perspective in big tech. You have to get on board the ship just in case it takes off and becomes the biggest product ever. But then you also have people, outsiders maybe like Hank Green, who are looking at a series of bubbles and saying maybe this is a bubble.
It took a little bit of time for me to parse. And once I did, it kind of terrified me. I'm going to show it to you as well. What a good little visualization we have on our hands here. How NVIDIA and OpenAI fuel the AI money machine. It just seems messy. It seems like bubble mechanics to me, you guys.
So yeah, Hank Green says maybe looks like bubble mechanics. I'm going to remind you guys that we're doing short clips here, so I'll leave the links to the full things below if you want to watch the full videos, get their whole perspective on.
Should I have smoke in the background? Should I have like... Because that's actually kind of cool. I'm not going to lie. But then again, he's not trying to be president, so that's fair.
This is obviously a very truncated version of that. I'm just trying to give you a sense of the wide variety of takes on this whole thing. We have Paul Tudor Jones saying that if there's a bubble, it's a very small bubble.
54% of fund managers think that we're in an AI bubble. If it's a bubble, it's a small one. If you think about the bubbles of the past 3 or 4 decades, the Nikkei in 89, NASDAQ in 99, Biotech 2000.
Why are there bubbles every 10 years? That's the next question we should be asking ourselves. Why does the stock market burst every 10 years? And why is nobody talking about it?
Just after 2011, 12, China, 2007, all those were 400 to 600% gains. The NASDAQ's up 200% off the bottom. So I don't know whether we're going to blow off like we did in 1999. Is it possible? Are all the ingredients in place? I think clearly they are. For me, the one thing...
Hey, we're not in a bubble, but everything that would define a bubble is there. However, comma.
That you can never, ever forget is that a year from today, assuming that the president gets his wishes, that the Fed funds rate's going to probably be 2.5% overnight rates or 2.75. That's a really compelling story for higher equity prices.
So there you go. All the ingredients might be in.
So if Trump gets his way and doesn't tank the economy from getting his way, and he controls the Federal Reserve, which is not going to spell anything good for anybody, our interest rates are going to be down to 2.5% like they were right before COVID. Get the fuck out of here.
Place, but it could go higher from here is Paul's point because of some macroeconomics. Then you also have the perspective that actually it's a huge bubble, not a small one. According to one analyst, the AI bubble is...
Okay, so we've kind of covered the... Oh, wait, have you guys not been seeing this guy this whole time? Anyway, there he is. He stole my idea of doing the corner. But the main takeaway is most people agree a bubble of some degree is happening and that the economic markers are not looking good for the rest of us. So, I'll leave it at that. Oh, speaking of bubbles, crypto. And the Trumps now being primarily
today on
wealthy
Forbes, Trump is now one of America's biggest Bitcoin investors.
The only good news about him being a Bitcoin investor and the fact that Bitcoin is still struggling to skyrocket is that makes him just that much poorer. Fuck you, Trump.
Donald Trump's finances, it's easy to miss one of his most important assets, Bitcoin. The cryptocurrency appears nowhere on the financial disclosure the president files with the government. It is not listed among the holdings identified on the Trump Organization's website, and it does not show up in other reports of his assets. But make no mistake, Trump holds a major position in the digital currency, amounting to an estimated $870 million as of the morning of October 10th, enough to make him one of the largest Bitcoin investors on the planet. The reason Trump's investment is so hidden? He holds it indirectly through his stake in the business that operates Truth Social, the Trump Media and Technology Group, which does appear on his balance sheet.
So that's the thing, though. Most of his wealth is still cryptocurrency. It's obviously not going to be talked about here because that's mostly focusing on Bitcoin. But the Trump coin is another coin that's cryptocurrency that's being used to launder money from foreign affiliates to donors to whatever else, which personally enriches him. But let's hear a little bit more.
Media attracted a multi-billion-dollar valuation trading on the NASDAQ, despite generating less than $4 million of annual revenue.
Right.
Then pivoted to crypto earlier this year.
Sorry, I paused that right during the explanation.
Technology Group, which does appear on his balance sheet. Trump Media attracted a multi-billion-dollar valuation trading on the NASDAQ, despite generating less than $4 million of annual revenue. Then pivoted to crypto earlier this year. In May, it raised $2.3 billion by taking on a pile of debt and selling its overvalued stock. Then, in July, it snatched $2 billion of Bitcoin. The stock sales diluted Trump's stake in the company from 52% to 41%. As of the morning of October 10th, the price of Bitcoin had increased about 6% since Trump Media's big bet. That leaves the president with 41% of an estimated $2.1 billion stockpile, enough to make his personal share roughly $870 million. Note that these figures were calculated just hours before last Friday's brief but dramatic crash in the price of Bitcoin that saw the cryptocurrency slide more than 10% before rebounding slightly. There are only a handful of other billionaires who appear to own more Bitcoin than Trump. The Winklevoss twins could have over $8 billion.
The fact that these guys keep coming up, the Winklevoss twins, they were part of Facebook. Oh my God. These Nepo fucking babies who have nothing to their name, no qualifications, no accomplishments, nothing, except for being the scummiest investing motherfuckers on the planet. That's crazy. Wow.
If they haven't sold off any in recent years. Michael Saylor, who pioneered the Bitcoin treasury strategy Trump Media is now copying, has about $5 billion through his 7% stake in his company, Strategy, as well as an estimated $2.2 billion on the side. Tim Draper won an auction in 2014 for coins the US government seized when taking down the Silk Road, an illicit marketplace, that are now worth $3.6 billion.
So the government auctioned off Bitcoin during the Silk Road, which I don't remember when that was. That was in 2020. So Bitcoin value in 2020. 5 years ago. $13,000. And there was $1 billion worth of the coins from back then. So approximately 69,000 Bitcoins. And then another 50,000. What? So what? Did they sell them for like $1 a fucking Bitcoin? Like, what did this even... That is a 10x boom. From whatever it was in 2020 to now has been a minimum of 10 times valuation for Bitcoin alone. That's fucking gnarly.
Investor Matthew Rozak may hold more than $1 billion. Right behind them, Donald Trump, who wanted little to do with Bitcoin during his first term. In 2019, the president tweeted, quote, "I am not a fan of Bitcoin and other cryptocurrencies, which are not money and whose value is highly volatile and based on..."
And now, because everybody was like, hey, by the way, you can manipulate the shit out of Bitcoin, and it's an arbitrary wealth generating machine, and all your other billionaire buddies are in on it, so you should get in on it. And guess what? Now he's in on it. There's ETFs, and now all of these major financial institutions are involved, billionaires are involved, and now crypto is just doing whatever they tell them to, which is nuts. Because it used to just be poor people speculating and having a little bit of gambling fun and maybe having enough money to pay rent for the month. I've actually paid my rent because of crypto investment. And now it's just yet another way to launder money for rich people. It's insane. And yes, they're all deformed D-bags. So yeah. I think that's pretty much enough of that.
Prosecutors say the scheme built billions of dollars from victims all over the world.
Fox 8's Linda Schmidt is live in the newsroom with a look at what prosecutors uncovered. Linda.
Yeah, well, first, this is wild. First of all, the reason that they call it pig butchering is because the scammers, they start by building trust with their victims, luring them in, fattening up for slaughter, like pig farmers do before they slaughter their pigs. Well, in this case, the scammers slaughter victims by stealing thousands, even hundreds of thousands of dollars from them. Now, this is a $15 billion.
So, kids, this is why if you get a text saying if you deposit $1,000, you'll get $1,000 in Bitcoin back is a scam. Do not do this. It's just like the Nigerian prince emails that your grandmother falls for. Do not fall for this. Don't.
Billion-dollar cryptocurrency fraud scheme. The U.S. Attorney's Office and the FBI say it was operated out of a call center, what you're looking at right there, in Cambodia. The indictment alleges the mastermind trafficked hundreds of workers, forcing them to work in labor camps and then to contact victims using social media, phone calls, and texting. Now, some of these pictures here are graphic. These pictures are showing you what they would do to these people. They would beat and torture them, allegedly, if they did not solicit potential victims. Now, the FBI calling this a vast criminal network that stole billions of dollars from innocent people from all around the world.
He operated a call center overseas of hundreds of workers.
How did the FBI have jurisdiction over a Cambodian call center? Don't get me wrong. Glad that they got the guy and stopped the trafficking, because Jesus. But I'm just curious what the FBI, how and why they had any authority there.
Whose sole purpose was to reach out to victims, try to gain their trust. A lot of these initial reach outs were very innocuous, didn't come off the bat looking for money right away, but try to gain trust with folks. And once they feel they had good trust, they would convince them to invest thousands of dollars into essentially fraudulent investment schemes. And a lot of times that was done through cryptocurrency or actually hard money.
And the suspect is 37 years old. His name is Chen Zi. Take a look. This is his picture right here. He is the founder and chairman of Prince Holding Group, which is a business conglomerate based in Cambodia. U.S. authorities say it is one of Asia's largest criminal organizations. Now, so far they are...
You know, when you think of criminal mastermind, the guy who got beat up in school for his lunch money does not come to the forefront at all. Yeah, he looks so innocent. Right. Like when you think criminal mastermind, you think somebody with scars and tattoos, lots of props lying around, not some schmuck with a weak chin. That's wild.
His picture right here.
That was a good video find, Anna. Oh, good news. We can actually share some good news.
California is the first state in the nation to provide long-acting insulin at the most affordable price available, $11 per dose. The deal is made possible through the state's very own pharmaceutical label.
And Circle of Health reporter Denise Dore has more on this announcement.
Yeah, political. I'm sorry. That's how I feel
living
too.
in Southern California.
Oh, Mom, can I go with Simba?
She played the voice of young Nala in The Lion King, but shortly after this role, Nikita Collum-Harris was diagnosed with type 1 diabetes.
I was once out of insulin for 5 hours, and that put me in the ICU for 2 weeks.
For many Californians who depend on these life-saving vials, the price has been unaffordable.
Think of the mother who is deciding whether she is going to pay for groceries or her insulin.
Insulin patients without insurance pay between $90 to $400 a vial. Now, through California's newest pharmaceutical venture, Governor Gavin Newsom announced $11 insulin pens will be available January 1st.
We are taking out the middlemen.
The pens...
Yeah, but see, several things on that. It's not until January 1st, which means they're still paying $90 to $400 until then. We have seen far, far, far too many stories about young people or poor people generally dying because they couldn't afford their insulin. So how many people are going to die in California because they can't get their insulin? Secondly, how many states are going to pass laws denying the ability to get insulin from California? Because we've already tried this with importing drugs from Canada. And there were laws literally passed in the United States of America banning that. Same drug, same medicine, but because it came from Canada, no. Like, it was not passed, okay? Another thing, this should be the #1 story of the news in all of America. I know I've said that maybe a couple times already. Bill Nye should be on loop, and this story should be on loop. If the state of California can get into the pharmaceutical business and make medicine ridiculously affordable, then there is no reason why we can't have universal health care to include pharmaceuticals. Because California is literally paving the way, creating the framework for that to happen.
Will be sold under the Cal RX brand. The vials will come in a 5-pack for $55. For patients with insurance, the out-of-pocket will be less. It's a result of a $50 million contract with the nonprofit generic drug maker Civica.
8 million Americans and more than 1 million Californians depend on insulin every day.
Other drug companies who make insulin have also cut their prices, but critics say those cost savings are passed on to consumers. Newsom argues this approach is different.
Not subsidizing, lowering the cost. Not socializing and spreading the cost. Simply.
What do you mean not socializing? The state of California is producing the insulin. That's socialism. You dumb fuck. This is why I hate neoliberals. Socialism is not an evil word. It is a definition of economic policy that serves the needs of the many. And you can't even bring yourself to say that as governor.
Reducing it.
For diabetes patients, this is a moment of joy.
Seeing the dollar signs drop in front of insulin costs, which is literally the vial of life.
It's the very definition, right? Even when he does something good, he does it
Cost
badly.
versions of albuterol for schools and naloxone, generic versions of short-acting insulin, and popular GLP-1 weight loss drugs are also in the works. Denise Dodor, ABC7,
So again, the state getting involved in pharmaceutical manufacturing is literally, that definition is communism. If the state is involved with the means and owns the means of production, that is communism. Providing it to the people, providing it to the people through tax dollars and so on and so forth, so that it's owned by the people, that's social. Now I'm getting confused on my definitions here. Socialism is when the means of production is owned by the people, right? So no, I guess this would be communism. Whatever. Like, doesn't fucking, whatever. Here's some not great news.
A live look at the markets on this Friday morning, starting the day in the green. The Dow, the Nasdaq, and the S&P all up on the hour. Depending on where you live, though, you might feel like we're in a recession right now. A new report finds nearly half of U.S.
Because the stock market and the real economy are not the same fucking thing. The stock market is a graph of rich people's feelings. The economy is whether or not you can afford to eat. Hence, 22 states in recession.
States are seeing their economies shrink, while more than a dozen states are seeing growth.
That's an interesting
News Nation's
ticker,
Alicia Nieves is in New York. What's driving these different economic conditions?
Yeah, good morning, Marnie. The biggest differentiator is if you're in a state that is feeling the pinch of something like, federal job losses a little bit more, the higher impact on tariffs, or even the immigration crackdown that's been a part of the president's agenda. You've got Moody's Analytics chief economist saying he's crunched some numbers, and based on those numbers, you've got 22 states. You're talking about almost half of the country that's right now in a recession, according to this data.
Ohio! Which is crazy because about 10 years ago, Ohio was surging economically. Like, we were like in the top 10 states for like a solid 10 years or something with economics and this, that, and the other. And now we're nearing or in a recession. And look at this. Other red states, New Mexico, Tennessee, Georgia, West Virginia, Virginia. Now, granted, there's some blue states facing recession too, which is crazy because usually blue states tend to do better economically, but even then, it's not. That's crazy.
On the precipice of one. Just look at this graphic right here. You'll see in the orange, these are the states I'm talking about. They're mostly northern states, mostly on the East Coast as well. A few near America's heartland, but many of them rely on agriculture and manufacturing. These are sectors that were hardest hit and have been hardest hit by tariff increases and then even labor shortages as a result of the immigration crackdown. There's also areas like D.C., Virginia, and Maryland where federal job losses, those are driving the downturn there. Now, I should point out that states don't typically kind of, mark or label an actual recession. You've got Moody's Analytics kind of crunching this data to give us an early warning of what we potentially could see nationally, since typically federal data doesn't show that we're in a recession until about 6 months into it. So, again, according to this data and the economists at Moody's, but also economists more broadly, things right now aren't looking that great. Just take a listen.
We're in a challenging situation. There's a little bit of a lag in the pain and problems caused by the tariffs. We have the highest tariff rate regime in over half a century. That is going to prove a very tough challenge for the American consumer and for the economy overall.
Yeah, what's really interesting, though, is there's this dichotomy of economies happening right now. You've got some states in the South that are actually thriving. South Carolina, Florida, Alabama. Those are all still growing, each posting pretty solid GDP gains earlier this year.
How
Even
are their
North
economies
Dakota led the
growing?
nation.
What are these states doing that is actually benefiting from this administration's economic policies? Also, North Dakota. When have you ever heard of North Dakota in any discussion involving economic or growth? That's crazy.
In the second quarter with GDP up more than 7%. But a state like California and even here in New York, treading water, not necessarily in a recession, not shrinking, but just barely growing, really showing that we're teetering here. And economists are warning if the job spread really continues, you could see even those southern states that are thriving start to stall by this upcoming winter, Marnie.
And that's the point. If people continue to not be able to work because people are being terrorized in their homes or at their workplaces, it's going to harm everybody. And that's not something that you're ever going to get past. I have never even spent a second thinking about North Dakota. What even is that? Exactly. The only reason why I even know about North Dakota is well, there's two reasons. One, Minot, North Dakota Air Force Base, which was always a threat. If you fuck up in the Air Force, you'll be sent to Minot, which is in North Dakota, and it's very cold. The second reason why I know about North Dakota is because that's where the DAPL pipeline protests were. And I went to them. So, now, this one is basically the first step of being charged with terrorism for being against ICE, the same way England is charging people for being against Israel.
Accused of threatening to kill federal agents. She faced a judge in federal court in South Boston today.
Federal prosecutors say the woman got in the middle of ICE and FBI agents who were trying to detain someone.
I'm going to let that play
NBC
for a
10's
second.
Oscar Mardine joins us live from outside federal court. Oscar, I understand this woman has been released.
That's right, and she did not say anything to the camera. She was pretty emotional inside a court, though. Now, the judge here releasing her against the wishes of the government, which argued that they were concerned for the safety of federal agents and also of her own safety. Now, they also said that she got in the middle of an immigration arrest in Malden a few weeks ago, calling agents monsters and Nazis.
No comment, thank you.
37-year-old Bethany Terrell, the woman in the black hoodie and forehead tattoo, walked out of federal court Thursday accused of threatening to kill federal agents.
If you don't want to talk about anything, we have no comment.
She and her attorney had nothing to say to reporters after a judge allowed her to walk out under a number of conditions. Her case dates back to September 29th, when prosecutors say she showed up to Malden District Court in Medford, where she encountered a group of ICE agents accompanied by the FBI as they were detaining someone for immigration purposes, a case that the government says had nothing to do with her. Court filings describe how she then allegedly interjected between the agents and began screaming, "ICE is here, ICE is here," and "You guys are monsters." Agents reportedly told her several times to back up, but they say she became belligerent and aggressive, calling agents Nazis before yelling, "We're coming for you, going to kill you." An FBI agent then tried to detain her, according to the court affidavit, saying she tried to escape. Fast forward 2.5 weeks, and now an emotional Terrell vowing to follow the judge's conditions for release, which included seeking mental help, avoid contact with law enforcement and any potential witnesses, stay away from alcohol and drugs, and not make any more threats.
So, that's actually a better outcome than I was hoping for, to be honest, because this is what happened to me when I got arrested for resisting arrest and for whatever other nonsense. It was after the cop had already pulled their firearm on me and then went down to a taser and then went to just detain me, while I was recording them on my phone, asking them what the fuck did they pull me over for in the first place, while he was screaming at me to get on the ground or back of my car, which I obviously wasn't going to do when they had a gun on me in the first place. And that was in what, 2017? 2018? No, that was 2017. When there was a major shooting event in 2017, I think it was around August. The Las Vegas shooting had just wait, no. Major shooting event, cop shooting event. Maybe that's what it was, though. Maybe I was concerned about the Las Vegas shooting, even though that wasn't, I guess, police-directed. Point being, that's the same shit that happened to me. They were like, okay, in lieu of jail time, as long as you get anger management and don't, break the law again, we'll let you go. The fact that the criminal justice system wants to control you for a given length of time via probation and forcing you to take mental health classes and all this, that, and the other, especially when you're resisting an authority for that authority violating your rights, is again a belligerent example of how we are not a free country and that we have been fascist. If you want to really get into the brass tacks, we have not been in a free country for years. Now, the level of fascism that you deal with on a regular day has obviously been not nearly as bad as it is today. And if you just follow the law, pay your taxes, and don't cause trouble, you would never know that the fascism was around you. But that's the point. Fascism is most effective when you don't pay attention to what's around you and you color within the lines. The fact that they took it that easy on her is actually surprising. I thought I had read an article where she was charged with terrorism. So I am very, very glad that it didn't go that bad. Oh, my arrest was 2018? Well, I'm sure there was some sort of police shooting that had just occurred in 2018 that I was trying not to get repeated. Yeah, true, there is a major shooting event in America every few days. Yeah, it is definitely, that is definitely the problem. And of course, the search engines are sanitized to benefit law enforcement and the state. Right, there are always police shootings as well. Okay. Final video. Let's see. What do we want to cover last? Ooh, I forgot I asked you to put this on there. Trains!
Well, now in Boomtown, Central Ohio is the fastest growing region in the Midwest without passenger rail service.
Today, the former head of the Department of Transportation arrived in the capital city to help lend his expertise on the topic of bringing passenger rail back to Columbus.
But as 10 TV's Kevin Landers explains, when passenger rail will return, that depends a lot on politics and cost.
Columbus hasn't had passenger rail service since 1979. That was 46 years ago. The Mid-Ohio Regional Planning Commission says even if everything goes well, don't
Anna, I think you were in college back then, right?
Expect to ride these rails until sometime in the 2030s. These conceptual renderings show what a Columbus train station at the convention center could look like. Supporters believe it's...
Bro! A train station at the convention center would be nuts. That would be nuts. First of all, parking to get there is insane. It is a pain in the ass to get there. Secondly, it is so busy. The traffic, it's just always so crowded. Anything. And the fact that you could be a vendor during a convention at the convention center and bring your shit on the train with a dolly instead of needing to get a truck or a car and navigate. Oh my God. That would be insane. Now, granted, I live around Columbus now, so this hits near and dear to my heart, but like, this is exactly the right way to build rail. To make it a stop so that it shows at major high traffic areas. And it's also one of the first steps of making a city walkable. So the fact that, cities like Columbus are even looking at bringing back passenger rail after a 46-year hiatus, like that's great. That is outstanding news. You ever hear of this thing called Fix the City? They're one of the loser of the D primary sources trying to get him elected. They have some ad about Zoran's got a few years and he will have many lives in his hands, which is probably the most tone-deaf ad. Their guy lost so many lives by his own negligence. Oh, I see what you're saying. No, I did not know about that because I'm in Ohio. Calling people a few years older than you old is not in your favor. Yeah, that's why I call Anna old, because she's only a few years older than me. Hola, True Steel. Welcome to the stream. Do you just not say anything until the end of the stream, or do you just show up at the end of the stream? I feel bad because every time we are chatting, it's right when I'm trying to wrap up. But yeah.
It's the future.
Oh, and the fact that it apparently takes 10 years to build a railway in America when China drops 1,000 kilometers of high-speed rail every single year. Like, how much high-speed rail does China create each year? Oh, I'm sorry. 3,000 kilometers of high-speed rail. My bad. And apparently they're trying to create 70,000 kilometers of high-speed rail by 2035. Like, China is doing high-speed rail, and we're just trying to make Columbus navigatable. Like, that's crazy. Two things. This president wants $230 million from the DOJ for investigating him, and he insulted a cameraman. Well, there is that. How did the con artist in The Simpsons get monorail built so fast? It's a great question. It is a great question. But, and I guess this is a month old, but it was new to me, and I wanted to talk about it. So yeah, let's hear a little bit more.
Transportation.
And then we can wrap
We
up.
did a regional survey last year. 90% of Central Ohioans, rural, urban, suburban, they said they wanted this.
This map shows
Right,
3 of the
because it
4
only
rail
makes
routes
fucking
the Federal
sense.
Railroad Administration has accepted for Columbus to study. One is seen as the higher priority.
We've referred to as that 3CD, the Cleveland, Columbus, Dayton, Cincinnati
Yes.
route. It just connects so many population centers throughout
It's
Ohio.
the entire population center, except for Dayton. Dayton has a pretty good population, but Cincinnati, Columbus, and Cleveland, that is the overwhelming majority population of Ohio.
As for the cost of creating a rail system in Ohio,
In terms of the capital investment, that's the piece that we really don't know.
former U.S. Secretary of Transportation Ray LaHood, a Republican who served under President Barack Obama, spoke to local leaders about the importance of passenger rail.
If you build it, they will come. This is an economic development project.
Huh, a
It's
Republican
rail
said
project,
this.
But it will create
Trains
jobs
on
for
the
those
menu,
people
boys.
who build the rail. It'll create jobs for people who will invest around where they build the stations.
None of the Ohio lines would involve high-speed rail.
In Michigan, for
see,
example,
that's
on their
stupid.
Wolverine service, they started at 79, then progressed to 90 miles an hour, and then ultimately they're at 110 right now.
It's unclear if there's the political will to ensure Ohio gets a rail line.
And we do have some folks in the Senate that are supportive, but that seems to be where the hurdle is getting more friends in the Senate.
These projects,
Yeah, because why would politicians give a damn about improving the livelihood of regular people?
frankly, will not be successful without the support of the state government.
The next step in this process is for Columbus to determine what routes the trains will travel. That's expected to take 1 to 3 years. After that, engineering and funding will take up to another 3 years. Kevin Landers, 10 TV News.
You know what? I find that extremely difficult to believe that it takes 6 fucking years to figure out where the choo-choo is going to go and how to get the choo-choo to go there. Fuck off. All right. Anyway, that is the last video for today's stream. I appreciate everybody's watching. It wasn't nearly as dystopian and bleak as previous streams have been, largely because I guess there hasn't been as much Nazi or new Nazi fascism to report, thankfully, to talk about, I guess. Not that there isn't any nonsense going on, obviously. We did cover the protests. We covered, the Florida teen being a sociopath, the trade war with China, and ICE arresting a friggin' cop who had papers. Anyway, we did cover quite a bit, and I think tomorrow's stream is going to be hopefully at this level of emotional stability. Maybe it's going to be emotional damage. Who knows? Because it's going to be Foreign Affairs Wednesday, and God knows what Israel has done and what other countries may have done as well. So, with that being said, I appreciate everyone who has joined us and been watching with us. We stream, as you can see, Tuesday through Thursday, 7 to 10 Eastern. Tuesdays, we do domestic affairs, American affairs. Wednesdays, we do Worldwide Wednesdays. And Thursdays, we do recap based on whatever may have happened or we may have missed. So, I look forward to seeing you all tomorrow. I look forward to having you all here. Like, share, subscribe, all that fun stuff. Samuel Ronan, your president, out.